White. Wide open Torrence! Oh, baby! Touchdown! How do you leave the best receiver in the NAIA that wide open?
You show, and that's what we do! Cat!
You're proud of me?
And it's caught! Oh my goodness! Troy Torrence comes down with it!
Welcome all to Bankroll Blitz. It is Troy and I's favorite week of the year, Thanksgiving week, all 32 teams in action. We have so much data on them. It's the time of the year where we make a lot of money, and we must make a lot of money. Shout out to all the cappers rocking with us already in the chat. We got the nuke worker, Omer Gaudet over in France. It's 2 a.m. here in France, but ready to rock week 13 with you guys. Gerald Jones, the Clark Edge. Great to see you all. Dougie Wise, D. Jenkins, Troy Torrence. We are moving in the right direction. Feeling very good about things. 16-4 for me over our last 2 weeks. We combined last week, you and I, to go 21-12 plus 8.63 units. We start another show where we're both in the black, and it's time to continue the climb. Nasty Nate in the house. Troy, how are you, my friend?
Doing good. I cannot wait to break this card down. Like you said, favorite week of the year. I've never had this much money open on a Tuesday in any NFL week in my career. A lot of action. So many spots to talk about. I never felt so confident in us as a team, Jim, and just this entire community as a team. So I love the way this is going. I think we're bringing valuable information to the table every week, and that's what it's all about. It's about the information. And sometimes I go down the rabbit hole. Like today, I got caught up because I noticed that there was significant trends that favored the home team every time the market moved to the over, and that favored the road team every time the market moved to the under. So then I had to look at it every single way. Spread ranges, conference, non-conference. How did the total impact it? What was the cash flow like in those situations? So I spent way too much time in holes like that, but I have a lot of information to bring.
16 games had to be capped for this show. I'm not going to pretend it was a leisurely 36 hours for me. This was extremely difficult, but I think the excitement of running well is pushing me. I think it's harder to put in all of the work when you're not running well. I feel very hopeful here, and I love Thanksgiving week. Great to see all the cappers in the chat. RVD 420, blue numbers, Slatsy. Great to see all of you guys. Let's go over the week that was. You went 13-10 plus 2.83 units. Pitt, Cleveland under 44.5, a wild loss, one unexpected. That was Pitt money line and the under 44.5 together at minus 105. Was shocking watching Pitt crumble there late. That first half under 18.5 cash for you. Colts +7 and Colts +7.5 both lost. I lost on my Colts action. We took a lot of flack on our video breakdown for it.
I think it's time to bend the knee, don't you think, to the Lions, to Dan Campbell? Just bend the knee at this point.
They're playing phenomenal football, and they just seem to be incapable of letdown spots. But we'll talk about the Lions here shortly. Panthers +11. We even took negative heat for that video where we just gave out a very easy, no sweat casher. I was with you on that one. That one cashed. Chicago, Minnesota under 40, under 39.5. Both those bets didn't go through for you. Bears team total, I think I wrote that in wrong, but the Bears team total and the Vikings first quarter -0.5 were losses. But Miami, New England over 45.5, over 46. Bucky Irving 60 or more. Kendrick Bourne over 22.5 receiving, and Packers -2.5. Those were all cashers. Then you lost the triple up on the Cardinals. And you still came through in the black because you were all over the Eagles and all over the Baltimore Ravens, and that brought you into a really nice spot there in the end of the week. For me, back-to-back 8 and 2 weeks with you guys. I lost the Colts +7.5 and lost Minnesota, Chicago under 39.5. Those are my first 2 bets of the week. Everything else cashed. New England, Miami over 46. Tampa Bay -5.5. Giants team total under 19.5. That was a 1.5 bet for me. Carolina +11. Denver -5.5. That was fortunate to cash. Green Bay -2.5. I was smart enough not to go for the middle. I wanted the middle, and I stayed off the middle. Thank God. 38-10 final score. Arizona, Seattle under 47.5. I keep telling you guys that this NFC West is where I do it best. And that was, 22 points were scored in that under 47.5. And then Chubb over 14.5 rush attempts. I've cashed my last 3 player props. I try not to make them, but we got paid with them. It's great to see all of you guys. Pipe Layer in the house. Sammy Calmer. Great to see all of you guys. WT, thank you for joining us. Troy, are you ready to get to work?
Let's do it.
We start with an absolute beauty. These 3 games on Thursday, just 48 hours, not even. I mean, we're talking 40 hours from now. I will be live streaming all 3 of these Thursday games. So if you get a chance to get away from family for a little bit, pour yourself a drink, roll yourself up a bat, whatever it is, take a second and hang out with me. Any chance that you get, I'll be live streaming for 12 hours on Thursday. We have Chicago Bears 4-7, 0-4 on the road. Still yet to win on the road. The Detroit Lions 10-1, 4-1 at home. We're at Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. Let's get into the line history here. We have a line moving towards the Chicago Bears. They're moving towards the Chicago Bears. This has stuck at 10.5 at only one book. Most of the other books have moved it to 10. At that number, 10.5, there's been 14 cents of movement towards the Chicago Bears. I have friends who are Lions season ticket holders, and they are very concerned about this spot with the injuries mounting up in the short week and everything going so smoothly. They're very concerned about this spot. 48.5 is the total. It opened up minus 107. Right now it's minus 110. We've had 3 cents of movement to the over. That is it. That's the only spot there. Let's go into the cash flow here for our Thursday night opener on Thanksgiving. We have 25% of the tickets and 26% of the cash on the Chicago Bears. And that's no surprise. It takes balls to bet against the Lions, and it's not a comfortable situation. As we've seen against non-division opponents, there just seems to be no letdowns. 75% of the tickets, 80% of the cash on the over. So when you are facing a rivalry, when you are in a standalone Thanksgiving spot, hard to think the Lions don't fire once again. Let's talk about the Bears first, though. Passing offense, 29th in the league, 187.6 yards per game. Rushing offense, 23rd, 111.3. Their red zone offense is 5th in the league, 65.4%. Their third down offense has been a problem all year long, 29th in the league, converting just 32.3% of the time. Pass defense was very strong at the beginning of the year, but missing Quan Brisker, who's on IR with a concussion, this defense hasn't looked the same. The secondary hasn't looked the same. His replacement, to make matters worse, Elijah Hicks, missed the Vikings game with an ankle injury. He hasn't practiced this week. He may miss another game. So then you have your third stringer, Jonathan Owens, playing safety across from Kevin Byard. It's not what they want to have out there. Their rush defense, 20th in the league, 129.7 yards per game. They're allowing all of these stats are getting worse now as the season goes on. Red zone defense has been strong all year. Third, 41%. They allow touchdowns 41% of the time. Their third down defense is 6th. They allow conversions 29.8% of the time. So good numbers there. They're coming off their 5th straight loss, 30-27 at home in overtime to the Vikings. 5-18 in one possession games under Matt Eberflus. I don't think we will see him here next year. But I thought the Bears showed a lot of heart. They showed a lot of character. This wasn't one of those games where there was a lack of character at the end. They showed character. Down 27-16 with 1:56 left in the game. They score a touchdown with 22 seconds left. Get the 2-point conversion. Get the ensuing onside recovery. And then Cairo Santos kicks a 48-yarder to send it into overtime. All in all, they were swept in their 3-game homestand, I should say. Outscored by the Patriots, Packers, and Vikings 69-49. But they played the Packers and Vikings really tough. It was the Patriots that beat them up 19-13. Caleb Williams was 32 of 47 for 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He also led a lackluster ground attack, running 6 times for 33 yards. Without a ground attack, how do you keep the Lions offense off the field? But he did finish with a 103.1 passer rating. His second really strong performance with Thomas Brown as the offensive coordinator after he replaced the fired Shane Waldron. DJ Moore caught 7 for 106 in the touchdown. We haven't said that for a long time. DJ Moore and Keenan Allen both eating. Keenan Allen catches 9 for 86 yards in the touchdown. 6-17 on third down, which is bad, but they were a perfect 3 for 3 in the red zone. Vikings put up 452 total yards on the Bears defense. if you can, that's the problem here with this spot. If I can't trust the Bears defense, I don't know how to take the dog in this fight. The only bright spot defensively is the Bears held the Vikings to 3 of 7 in the red zone. But then the first thing you ask, how the hell did they get in the red zone 7 times? I mean, there's red flags all over this. Pass rush had 3 sacks and 9 quarterback hits. Let's talk about these Detroit Lions. They just continue to roll. One more win. I cashed the over 10.5 wins. Remember, I was complaining about the juice on that bet. God, I should have put my life savings on it. And then I have the division, which isn't in the clear still because these Vikings are 9-2. Passing offense for the Lions, 6th in the league, 243.5 yards per game. Rushing offense, 4th at 150.8. Red zone offense, 4th, scoring touchdowns 68.9% of the time. Third down offense, 4th, converting 46.8% of the time. It's just a solid offense. This passing defense, I was taking heat for, giving the PFF numbers, on Terry and Arnold and saying that their secondary is bad because their cornerbacks were weak. And the commenters in the chat were saying, look at how strong their safety play is. And, amongst swearing and why they don't ever want to watch me and things of that nature. Their pass defense, 25th in the league, 27.2 yards per game. But in the last 3 games, they are 3rd in the league, just allowing 152 yards per game. Rush defense been great all year, 5th in the league, allowing 94.9 yards per game. And then red zone defense, 3rd down defense. Red zone, 2nd best in the league, 3rd down defense, best in the league. Coming off yet another impressive performance, 9 straight win, 24-6 over the Colts in Indianapolis. 10-1 for the first time since 1934. That was their inaugural season in the Motor City. Goff, 26 of 36 for 269 yards. Jamison Williams caught 5 for 64. Amon St. Brown caught 6 for 62, but he's dealing with a knee injury. He's not going to practice this week. He's questionable. My friend, and I have a few different season ticket holders as I'm only a few hours away from the Motor City. They don't think Amon is going to play. Now, that's part of their concern. Jahmyr Gibbs ran 21 times for 90 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3rd player in Lions history with 1,000 scrimmage yards and 10 touchdowns in each of his 2 first seasons, joining Billy Sims and, of course, Barry Sanders. The offense just continues to deliver. 9 of 15 on 3rd down, 3 of 4 in the red zone, dominate time of possession, 37-01 to 22-59. And the defense somehow continues to handle these mounting injuries. It's amazing. They've shut out the opposition in the second half 3 straight games. They held the Colts to 11 first downs, held them to 3 of 13 on 3rd and 4th down, 0-2 in the red zone. The pass rush had 0 sacks, but did get 6 quarterback hits. But the injuries just continue to mount. Now you have Montgomery with a shoulder injury. Now he's questionable to play. Khalif Raymond with the foot injury. Carlton Davis, the cornerback who has been succeeding when Terry and Arnold is not, left early in the 4th with a left knee injury. They're all listed as questionable on the short week. There's a lot of reason with the injuries to Anzalone, to Hutchinson, to all these key players that you'd want to fade the Lions on a short week here, but it's very difficult to do. The Chicago Bears team very well, Troy, being from Chicago, living in Chicago. Take it away. Our first game on Thanksgiving Thursday.
Yeah, I said it right before this show started with this first breakdown. I think it's time to bend the knee as it relates to this Lions team. The ATS record over the past 3 seasons, I mean, you look at that as a sharp better and you want to fade that. It's seemingly always they're always in a letdown spot, but they never seem to let down. It's always a Dan Campbell bite the kneecap off type of situation. It's just, how do you get in front of this type of team? And honestly, looking at the other side, watching the entire game, the Bears-Vikings game, actually I watched this game twice because I had a big bet on this under last week. It didn't come through. There was plenty of chances for it to go under, but I don't think I was on the right side pretty much off the get-go in that spot. Caleb Williams, he had 10 turnover-worthy plays through the first 6 weeks, only 3 in the last 5. This guy made some absolutely incredible throws that defied logic. I'm telling you, there was one time, full speed, rolling out, running horizontally, jumping and throwing a dot 40 yards downfield on the money. One of the best passes I've ever seen. The only player in the NFL that could repeat a pass like that is Lamar Jackson. And I would even put him up to the test because it was truly that impressive with the guy in his face and the pass rush right on his ass. The way he handled Flores' pressure, he did it extremely well. It was extremely satisfying as Bears fans watching that game, I'm sure. Because, talking to my dad, he was not sad after the loss. He was not upset because Caleb, his golden boy, all Bears fans' golden boy, played like he did. And it was pretty impressive. And I always talked about this. The offensive line is misperceived in the general public. They say that this offensive line is terrible. I see a bunch of media blasting this offensive line, talking about how they're terrible. But I see what PFF sees. They're 10th in both run blocking and pass blocking. obviously they have plenty of options at wide receiver. The major issue with this offense is there's no creativity in the run game, and I think poor running back performance in general. DeAndre Swift is not your guy. He's not an every down back. He's not an early down back. I think that's going to hold him back, especially in a game like this where you need to be able to lean on the run to some extent against this Lions team. Defensively, like I had really high expectations for this Bears team, and I've been tapering back. And you haven't heard me talk about this Bears defense because you see there's a clear lack of effort. Clear lack of effort. This is one of the best tackling teams in the league. They're still graded up there towards the top. I think they're 4th or 5th now per PFF, but they were first, and you could see it. Like there's been poor effort by this defense for multiple weeks. No Brisker, you touched on that. Brisker was my favorite player on this defense. No Billings, who's a nose guard, plays the 1-3 technique, plays between the guards. And what he does for this defense, like he's a guy that's not going to grade out well per PFF, but he's going to blow up plays by getting in the backfield. And he's just a big hoss, very wide. He was great to defend the run. Without him, we're definitely lacking. And just like in Bears, every year it seems with this Bears team, they cannot stop the run. Both their linebackers, Edmonds and Edwards, I mean, they've been seriously letting the team down, in my opinion. The fact that I cannot trust this Bears defense, just like you said, man, I'm right there with you. It's just a major issue. This is the best rushing attack in the NFL, maybe the best rushing attack in the history of the NFL. And I don't expect the Bears to have any success running the ball on the other side. Look what the Lions just did to Indianapolis. So I don't think the Bears are going to be able to move the ball on the ground. You're going to need an incredible performance by Caleb and an inspired effort by this defense. I don't know if they have it in them. They are playing the Super Bowl, a team that's destined for the Super Bowl, the best team perceived in the league. I'm sure that they're going to be up for this spot. But I don't know if they have the talent to step up after what I've been seeing. And this Lions defense, like you were talking about the secondary a little bit and how they've been playing better pass defense lately. I think the more and more they realize that they can lean on this pass rush because the pass rush is so good, they're adjusting to that. They're squeezing the gaps now. They're playing a little bit tighter. They're a little more sticky. And the secondary, they have some absolutely massive playmakers. So, oh man, it's just a big spot. Like it's like just looking at the database. So I'm gonna read some trends off the database because this is fascinating. Because I backed a lot of out of conference double digit home favorites this year. I think I'm 2-0. Backing out of conference double-digit home favorites. They're 13-6 ATS over the last few seasons. The line movement's incredibly efficient. They're 8-2 ATS if the total is greater than 44. But if you flip it, not out of conference, but in division like this matchup, home favorites 7-12 ATS. The line movement is only 35% accurate, which is really interesting in this situation because never has a home team in division laying between 10 and 11 had the market move away from them. So this is you've never seen this market move towards the Bears in a divisional matchup like this, which is very surprising. So I'm not sure what to make of it. I am going to have the Lions in a money line parlay with a team I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But other than that, I have no action on this game. But I'm sure I'm going to get some bets down prior to the game starting. So follow me on Twitter.
Fernando Mendoza on the under 48.5. I thought long and hard about that. And my concerns with the Bears defense eventually led me towards the over. Do I want an over, on an early Thursday game after these teams just played the week prior? It's Slatsy says, since week 8, the Bears have given up more yards than any other team in the NFL. Rod Zawacki says, bet on road underdogs of 10.5 or more points after 5 or more consecutive losses in weeks 10 through 13 since 1983, 23-4 against the spread. He's on the Bears plus 10. Drewski on the Bears money line. The coin saying Detroit 0-3 straight up and 2-1 against the spread during the Goff Campbell era on Thanksgiving.
Are we really going to be concerned about Amon-Ra St. Brown being out in this type of situation? The Bears aren't going to be able to apply a pass rush. You give Goff time at home with the running attack, probably a lot of play action. I just can't see the Bears having success. I wanted to get to the Bears. I can't do it. It's got to be Lions or pass.
I wanted to get to the Bears too, and I can't do it. But I tell you what, if Amon-Ra St. Brown is out, Montgomery is out, and this line moves further towards the Bears and the total drops, I will find the Lions appealing, but I think I'll find the over more appealing. If Amon-Ra St. Brown, Montgomery are out, this total drops to 46.5. I'll, be very interested in trying to get over it. So we'll just have to see how things bang out. I have action on the Thursday card. And again, I'm running real nice and not forcing it here. So nothing here for me. Clark Edge says
I agree with you, Jim. If this line ticks below the 10, I'll probably end up backing the lines.
I'll have interest in them. I will, but I want the market to overreact if Amon-Ra St. Brown and Montgomery or both are out.
There's only been 2 situations where a line has opened above 10 and closed below 10. And both of them were absolute freaking blowouts. The Bills smacked the Patriots by 14, and then the 49ers smacked the Seahawks by 20.
I think that is the plan. I think I've got it figured out. So we need to kind of, tomorrow's Wednesday injury report. It's the most important injury report of the week, obviously, for us. So we'll have to find out then. Clark Head says Lions at home, last 2 games, only 14 and 6 points against them. Other 3 home games, 20, 29. Lions defense at home on Thanksgiving. Bears team total under 18.5 for the Clark Edge. So we roll on. Rod's Wacky says in a home game where the total's between 42.5 and 49, the Lions are 3-0 to the over. He says he likes the over. So going to have to wait a little bit longer before we make moves. But that is our Thursday night or Thursday morning Thanksgiving opener, and you can join our live stream right here on Pub Sports Radio. Let's move on to game 2, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. We have the New York Giants 2-9, 2-3 on the road. Dallas Cowboys 4-7, 0-5 at home. We're at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Let's get into the line history here for this one. We have this total at 37.5, and it's juiced to the under. It opened up at 38.5. It was there for 32 minutes, and it dropped to 37.5. From that point on, it started getting juiced to the over, and then it came back. Then it started getting juiced to the over again. So last night, this got back to 38.5. It was right back at 38.5. It was there, for a while. It was actually, I take that back. Sorry, it was yesterday. It moved at 9:50 yesterday on Monday morning, back to 38.5, and it was there for about 4 hours. Then 37.5, and now that under 37.5 is being juiced. So we have a move towards the under. On the spread here, we have Dallas minus 3.5 at minus 108. They open minus 4.5, then it goes to 4, then it goes to 3.5. I was a little surprised that there's been a move towards the Giants. Blue number says Giants haven't hit bottom yet. For me, it was that game that I wanted so badly against the Buccaneers. And I had a unit and a half on the team total under, just 1 unit on the Bucs. I should have had Bucs double result. I should have had over a K invested in that game. I was very adamant that it was just going to sit back and cash. I'm not so sure here. I don't want the Giants, but with 21% of the tickets and 11% of the cash on them, the market moving towards them, the Cowboys coming off a victory, and the Giants getting slapped in the face, I find that concerning for anybody who wants the Cowboys. 91% of the tickets and 82% of cash on the over. I mean, we just saw, 31 points in the last 4 minutes of the Cowboys-Commanders game. A complete outlier. 2 kick returns brought back to the house in the last 4 minutes of the game. An 86-yard, touchdown pass. I just don't find. I want.
That's true, Jim. But you got to think their first 3 possessions resulted in 2 easy missed field goals and a fumble. So there's both sides of that spectrum.
No, that's absolutely fair. Absolutely fair here. Okay. Jared TG says, "Did I see that Tommy Cutlets is out?" No. Unless something has changed in the last few hours, he's already the starter. It's already been confirmed that he's starting here. But Sammy Comer saying DeVito is severely banged up. So I'll look into that more. But as of today, it was DeVito's starting at quarterback here. All right, let's get into the situation here. And for these Giants, I got to go. I always list all of the injuries here for each team, but with this one, I have a note saying you got to go to the list because the list is a little tricky with the New York Giants injury report. So I'm going to get over to that. But let's get into this first. Here, passing offense, 28th in the league. Rushing offense, 19th in the league. Red zone offense, the worst in the league. That's just going to get worse, without not that Danny Dimes was good in that situation, but he's better than Cutlets. Third down offense, 17th in the league. They convert 37.9% of the time. Passing defense, 7th. They allow 194.2 yards per game through the air, but they allow 147.9 on the ground. That's third worst. Red zone defense, 11th, and third down defense, 15th. There was a lot of talk here, and I'll go over some of these quotes about, whether or not the Giants were trying. That was they coming off their 6th straight loss, 30-7 at home versus the Buccaneers. If DeVito was at the helm, these last 7 games of the year could feel like an eternity for Giants fans. Dexter Lawrence called them soft. Malik Neighbors said that this team was soft, and he really spoke out pretty passionately about it. Jermaine Illuminor said that he didn't think everyone was giving 100%. That makes me think that they will give 100% here. And I just can't back a team with Tommy DeVito at quarterback, and here with the forearm injury, he's listed as questionable. They have a ton of people limited and that, but I had DeVito in and playing here. Right sore forearm, left off the injury report Monday, but he's banged up. Added to the report today. Dable acknowledging that second year quarterback is not 100%. And he's not certain to play Thursday. Drew Lock will take extra preps. So I guess that 1-point move is people expecting Drew Lock to be at quarterback. If Drew Lock is at quarterback, it's a very different situation where I would expect the Giants to be live. The Giants were outgained 450 to 245. Bucks averaged 7.3 yards per play. The Giants average just 4.7. Malik was very upset, but he did catch 6 passes for 64 yards, but he wasn't targeted in the first half. And DeVito only threw for 31 yards in the first half. Wan'Dale Robinson caught 5 for 47. Tyrone Tracy ran 9 times for 42, caught 4 passes for 28, also fumbled, lost the fumble. The offense was just 1 of 3 in the red zone, but the defense couldn't get any stops. Bucks go 4 or 5 in the red zone. Pass rush was invisible, 0 sacks, 2 quarterback hits, and Illuminor has a quad injury, and Azeez Ojulari got hurt in the first quarter and didn't return. He's a big piece of the puzzle. Let's talk about these Dallas Cowboys. We don't really need to get in their passing offense because but it is pretty similar actually with Cooper Rush's numbers compared to Dak's, but their rushing offense second worst in the league. Rico Dowdle coming off a rare great game. Third down offense 25th in the league, pass defense 21st in the league. Rush defense is second worst in the league. They allow 150.5 yards per game on the ground. Their red zone defense is the worst in the league. They allow touchdowns 75.7% of the time. Their third down defense is 11th. They allow conversions 35.1% of the time. Coming off a 34-26 victory at Washington, snapped their 5-game losing streak. Cooper Rush 24-32 for 247 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Lamb caught 10 for 67, and Schoonmaker caught 3 for 55 in a touchdown. But Rico ran 19 times for 86 yards, caught 3 for 12, did lose a fumble. But the offense was 2 for 11 on third down, 2 of 3 in the red zone. The Cowboys, as I said, returned those 2 kicks for touchdowns in the fourth quarter. 31 points in the final 4 minutes. That's the most in an NFL game in more than a decade. The defense allowed the Commanders to put up 412 yards and go 2 for 2 in the red zone. They did hold them to 4 of 12 on third down, but Micah Parsons was a monster. 8 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits. Golston and Mukwamu each had interceptions. Tyler Smith, their left guard, was inactive with ankle and knee injury. Zach Martin didn't travel. Either did Jake Ferguson and Trayvon Diggs. They didn't travel with the team because they want to play here. They hope to play here. They think they can win this football game, and then all of a sudden the Cowboys will be 5-7. So for me, when it comes down to it, if Drew Lock is at quarterback, I will have interest in the Giants with all that he has to prove here. With DeVito at quarterback, I would like to bet the under in this football game. It may be more sound just to bet the Giants team total under. I may just do that. But I do expect the defense to step up a little bit after being called out so heavily. Take it away, Troy. Giants, Cowboys, game 2 on Thanksgiving Thursday.
I actually am starting to like this game more and more. I've been screaming from the mountaintops that this Commanders team is overpriced in the market. It's finally coming to fruition over the past 3-4 weeks. And I'm pissed off for not backing the Cowboys in this last matchup. It was one of those spots that I just talked about with the Bears, right? Double-digit home favorites in division. You want to fade them. Seen it play out in this game or in that game with the Commanders and the Cowboys, and we might see it play out with the Bears-Lions, but I'm just not impressed as the general. I'm not impressed with this 10-point win. I don't think they were 10-point dogs in that game. They shouldn't have been. It was a mispriced game, so I don't want to let that mislead me or anybody else watching the show. The one element of that game that left me hopeful with this Cowboys team is that they had the ability to run the football on offense. And this is against the Commanders team. Yeah, they struggled to defend the run, but they have shown that they can lock up, shut down bad football teams, bad rushing attacks consistently. But at the end of the day, this Cowboys team still got outgained 6.1 to 5.4 yards per play. They only went 2 for 11 on third down, like you said. They did generate some turnovers defensively, which is great to see because we know this Cowboys team is capable of generating these turnovers. Last year, past few years, they're top 5 in creating turnovers or turnover margin. This year, they're 30th in turnover margin. So it's good to see that. That kick return from Turpin was probably the best single kick return I've ever seen. And this is after the years of Devin Hester when he was in Chicago and watching all of his kick returns and highlight tapes and shit like that in the Chicagoland area. That was the best play on special teams I've ever seen. So at least you have some good for the Cowboys. There's some good. There's some things to look at and to like about this team. I don't think that's the case at all for the G-men. Coming off their bye week, they get trampled 30-7. This is full well knowing who's going to be at quarterback. They did not get any significant pressure on Baker. None. 0 sacks. The defense looked completely lifeless. The offense looked desperate. And they, as desperate as they were, they couldn't generate any type of offense. This team is in the tank. They don't want to win football games at this point. I don't think that the coaching staff is going to put them in good situations to win. They're showing their hand. When they're starting to veto at quarterback, they're telling us what's going on in that situation. I could see the Cowboys being the much more motivated team than the G-men. G-men on the road, clearly in the tank, not even worried about their pride at this point, seemingly. And I know there's sentiment to fade this Cowboys team on Thanksgiving, but I feel like this is a completely different situation. We're not talking about Dak Prescott at quarterback and a Cowboys team at the top of the division. We're talking about a Cowboys team that's trying to be 5-7. And if you look at the history of this market profile, I mean, I think this money line price should be minus 250. I talked about a money line parlay. I parlayed the Cowboys and the Lions money line, but I'm seriously considering just taking the spread. Home favorites that close between 3.5 and 4. You know, this is the sharp trap. This is where I like to call it the sharp trap, even for the road team laying 3.5, 4. After the market moved away from them, 16-5 ATS, 17-4 straight up, 16-5 to the over. If the game is in division, 6-2 ATS and straight up. And the low total only favors the home team and favors the margin in that, in that sample. So there's only one way I'm looking. There's no way I have money on the Giants team. I don't care if Drew Lock is playing quarterback. I don't think he's very good either. At least that's I haven't watched a lot of Drew Lock, to be honest. But just looking at his numbers, they don't look very good. Probably better than Tommy DeVito. But what does that tell us about the team that Drew Lock is on the bench and Tommy DeVito is your starting quarterback? This is a Cowboys spot.
It's interesting. So you'd prefer Drew Lock to be announced in. The market continue to move towards the Giants and then to be on the Cowboys. By the way, 3 hours ago, it was announced that Azeez Ojulari is going on IR. So he can't come back to week 17 and he won't come back this year. Interesting. Omar, agreeing with your take. So you have a Lions Cowboys money line parlay right now, and you may add the Cowboys minus the points.
I might add the Cowboys minus the points.
I want, if Cutlets is in, I'm going to be on the under 37.5. If Drew Lock is in, I'll still have interest in that under, but I don't know if I get to the window. I do think that I will put together a parlay with the 3 games. I used to do it when I was down in Costa Rica when I started in the industry for Thanksgiving, and I do think I kind of like where you're at. Wouldn't mind also having that involved. So interesting breakdown. That is game 2 of Giants or Thanksgiving Thursday. Clark Edge Cowboys minus 6.5 at plus 145 for Clark Edge. Let's roll on to the final game, and this is the big one for me. I've only made bets on 2 games, but I've used 5 units on these 2 games, so they're important. They're important. And this is the first one. I've got 2 units on this game. 8:20 p.m. Eastern. Miami Dolphins 5-6, 2-3 on the road. At the Green Bay Packers 8-3, 4-2 at home. We're at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin. 27 Fahrenheit snow showers. 11-mile-per-hour winds. I understand. I think we all know Tua Tagovailoa 0-7 in games at 40 degrees or less. You know that there are some cappers that are very heavy on, odds, line movement. Some are heavy on trends. Every capper is sort of different with how they get paid. I really care about the psychological side of things and the situational side of things, and that's what got me and you first. But that's what got us on the Panthers last week, was that I just didn't buy into the bounce back, and I can't wait to talk about the Panthers game on Sunday here tonight when we talk about it. So I am on the Dolphins, and I did pay a little bit of juice for the 3.5. And despite Tua Tagovailoa's issues in the cold, I don't think that 3.5 is I think it's going to be minus 135. At least I'm hoping. I'm also on the under 47.5. And Troy, you were the one that messaged that to me earlier today. And as I broke it down, I really agreed. And it was a funny agreement because not only do I agree, but I also still like the Dolphins. So this isn't me fading the Miami Dolphins in cold weather. Let's get into the line history here. This is game 3 of our 3-game Thanksgiving slate. Miami right now is +3 at +102. So it's moved 2 cents towards Miami since I bet it. That last move was at 4:26 p.m. Opened +3.5 at -114. It lasted there for 28 minutes till it moved to -116. And then it was there for 3 hours before it moved to -127 and to the 3. So we've had a move towards Miami, and I expect there to be more of one. On the total here, the 47.5 cost me -116. Right now, it's still there. It's a -116. It hasn't moved since 11:30 this morning. You'll see most of the books hanging 47s. Is it a sign that I don't have as much confidence that I wanted the 3.5 and that I wanted the 47.5? I don't really think so, personally. Let's get into the cash flow then for this spot. We have 44% of the tickets on the Dolphins and 41% of the cash. I'm very comfortable there. 77% of the tickets and 84% of cash on the over. I'm surprised about this, that the mark is moving towards the over. A Nuke Worker says Tua can't play in cold weather, and he's being told that everywhere he goes. Everywhere he goes, he's being told that right now. And this is a guy who could have, comfortably just retired after all of these neck injuries. But he's a football player, and that's all he wants to do is play football. And he keeps getting told over and over and over again that he can't play in cold weather. The Dolphins passing offense 19th in the league, 207.1 yards per game. Rushing offense 16th at 116.8. Red zone offense 11th at 57.6%. Third down offense 10th, 41.8%. Those numbers are vastly improving right now. Back-to-back games of the Dolphins 30+. Pass defense 8th, 197.5 yards per game. They allow rush defense 9th, 106.9. Their red zone defense 7th. They allow touchdowns 48.3% of the time. Their third down defense 5th. They allow conversions 33.6% of the time. And you are very high on the Dolphins defense, Troy, and that has filtered down to me as well. Tua said this. He said, "I'm excited to kill narratives. Let's go. Bring it on." I truly, and I watched it a few times, I think Tua is going to prove that he's got no problem playing at this point in his career in 40 degrees or less. Now it's less, way less, 27 degrees. Now that doesn't mean they win the game. I got them +3.5. They come in off their third straight victory, a dominant 34-15 win at home over the Patriots. They were up 31-0 going the fourth quarter. They were 29 for 40. Tua was for 317 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. He has 11 passing touchdowns, just 1 interception since returning from injured reserve in week 8. Waddle had 8 for 144 and a touchdown. Jonnu Smith had 9 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown. Tyreek Hill had 5 catches for 48 yards, which is not very good. That's why I put it in. He's not really rolling right now. Devon Achane ran 10 times for 32 yards, caught 3 for 24 and 2 touchdowns. They were just 4 of 12 on third down, but they went 3 of 4 in the red zone. The defense held the Patriots to just 268 total yards, 4.3 per play. They didn't allow the Patriots to run one play in the red zone all game long. Dodson had a pick. Now, linebacker Anthony Walker got hurt. It's a hamstring injury. It's a non-contact hamstring injury. It looked worse than it's going to be. He's not going to play in this game, but it doesn't look like he's going to be out for too long. Also, Fuller is still in concussion protocol. So he's not going to be in this game. He's missed now 2 games. He got the second concussion of the season for him in week 10. So he's going to miss more time. So you're going to see a lot more of Cam Smith and Storm Duck until Fuller returns to the field, and he wants to return to the field. So let's get into the Green Bay Packers. Passing offense, 11th, 230.3 yards per game. Rushing offense, 3rd, 151.6. Red zone offense, 20th, 54.6%. Third down offense, 19th, 37.6%. Passing defense, 11th, 206.5. And rush defense, 12th, 112.7. It's been pretty good. The red zone defense being a little better of late, 20th in the league, 60%, allowing touchdown 60% of the time. Third down defense, 12th, 35.7. So before I move again into the Packers, I just want to say a lot of this run I've been on over the last 2 weeks is teams that are now excited to come to the stadium. And they haven't been all year. There's a bounce in their step now.
Does that not make you think about the Cowboys? I know we're past that.
It does make me think of the Cowboys.
You're win on prime time. You made a good point, though. It's a good point.
I want to know who's at quarterback for the Giants, but your take on the Cowboys, I'm very, very interested in. The Packers coming off an easy 38-10 victory at home over the 49ers. Look, I thought that might hurt the Lions, who seem incapable of letdowns when they won 52-6 over the Jags. It didn't. But the Packers, I don't think, have the character of the Detroit Lions. Jordan Love was 13-23 for 163 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jacobs ran 26 times for 106 yards and 3 touchdowns. Romeo Doubs led receivers with 3 catches for 54 yards. He left with a concussion. He's not going to clear concussion protocol in time to play. So you take Doubs out of the lineup, and now it's just Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, and Dontavian Wicks as their 3-man set. And I think that's a lot easier to attack. You'll have Bo Melton, Malik Heath in there as well. The offense was a perfect 5 for 5 in the red zone. They dominate time of possession, 36 minutes, 43 to 23-17. Scored on each of their first 3 series. They were dominating a beaten, broken 49ers team. Held the 49ers of Brandon Allen, quarterback, to 3 of 12 on 3rd and 4th down. Pass rush at 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits. McKinney had yet another interception. He's now tied with Kirby Joseph for the NFL lead. No Jair Alexander, no Edgerrin Cooper, and neither are expected to be in this one. I truly think that Tua Tagovailoa is going to prove people wrong in the cold weather, and they don't need to win the game. But because I'm so adamant about that, I'm betting it. I'm going to bet it. I'm going to put a unit on it. I think the Dolphins come to play in the cold and come to prove everybody's saying it everywhere you go that Tua can't play in cold weather. And this guy came back with a purpose. He didn't have to. Take it away, Troy. Dolphins, Packers.
You know what this game makes me think of? Because I watched this Dolphins game. I was on the over, but watching what they did to the Patriots, it actually made me feel extremely confident in my action on the Eagles because of just how certain teams match up and how they correlate. But that's why I'm starting to think, like, how am I going to incorporate that this week? Where am I going to get some tell by the early games in the slate for later in the slate? I think that's pretty important, especially at this point in the season when teams are on the tipping point of being in or out. Bought in or bought out, I should say. The Rams and the Pats game, that was a battle, right? Highly competitive game. Dolphins versus Pats was anything but competitive, to the point where I felt like I was going to lose my over because the Patriots could not do anything offensively after being pretty successful, having a pretty high success rate for the few weeks before that.
I was right with you. And that Christian Gonzalez, as soon as they pulled out Tua, I was like, I didn't know which way this was going to go. I didn't know, like, is this going to fall apart or do we get in it? It took one play.
Bro, I was screaming at the TV. Faber was like, hold on, this is good for us. This is good for us. First snap. It was hilarious. The Dolphins, they made this Patriots offense look completely dead. Only 4.3 yards per play. Got absolutely locked up and exposed on 3rd down. The Dolphins offense, they've looked great since Tua's return. I think there's something to be said here. So they're averaging about 30 points since his return. He has 10 touchdowns and only 1 pick. And there's a change in the philosophy here. The offense is running much slower. This is a point that I made last week. That continued this week. I had the over, but the offense is playing much slower. 68% of his dropbacks, Tua, result in passes of 10 yards or shorter. 2 years ago, or the past 2 years before that, only 53% of his dropbacks And as you go down, like earlier in his career, I mean, we're talking about a complete change of philosophy. That's a big drop off in where they're attacking downfield versus, intermediate, short parts of the field, or even behind the line of scrimmage. And I get it. He wants to kill narratives. And Jimmy and I were talking about this game earlier. I was asking, I know he said that, but if I knew he was practicing in Green Bay, like he was preparing by playing in the weather, because really, in my opinion, the only way you get better at something like this is by repetition and putting yourself in that situation. Because I wanted the Dolphins too, and I heard that comment, I heard that quote, and it makes you want the Dolphins, but he hasn't taken a snap in this type of weather since Casey, and that was last year in the playoffs. That was his last game. It was a very 50. He had a bad game. So I don't know exactly what to make of that. There's a lot to be unpacked there, and I still might be able to get to the Dolphins side. But still, what he's been able to do was what this offense has been able to do is pretty impressive, despite lacking the explosive nature they once did. And there's two things like that you can't write off in this situation. That's the Dolphins. They don't win games versus quality opponents, or the Packers are quality opponent. I think they're a quality opponent, but I still think they're overrated in the market. And the Dolphins, their offense obviously just turns into a pumpkin in cold weather. So, oh man, I don't know. You look at the Tua since he's been back, their wins against the Patriots, the Raiders, the Rams, the losses against the Cardinals and the Bills, the two quality opponents they lost to. And on the other hand, I've actually been talking about the Packers invading this team because they're overrated in the market for a few weeks now. I know I was backing them at 2.5. That's because we knew, Jimmy, we set this up. We bet it because we knew that this line was going to move. And sure enough, Purdy got announced out, and then the line flew in our direction. But they really have no marquee wins on the season. I know they beat the Cardinals at home, and they beat the Texans at home. Both of them were pretty unimpressive, in my opinion. The Cardinals kind of shot themselves in the foot. The Texans were just dead at that point in the season. They might be dead now because they're definitely not looking like they did last year. So I don't know how much equity you want to put in that. And I've spoken about Love and how his numbers completely flip-flop year over year. What he was doing last year to compared to this year is not the same quarterback. It's simply not. Watch him on film. It's not the same quarterback. And then luckily, they have LaFleur and Jacobs to lean on. Both these guys are best in class. If you're watching what Jacobs is doing at back, I think what he's doing is pretty damn impressive because the offensive line, they're grading out first overall in pass block, but 28th in run block. Jacobs is absolutely unbelievable right now. He's playing out of his mind, probably the best he's been playing in his entire career. And defensively, the Packers, outside of their secondary, this is not an impressive unit. They do have some good ways to scheme pressure, but it's not consistent. There's only so many stunts you could do. And honestly, after saying all that, I am on the under. Jimmy, you said I'm on the under, so I'm on the under. And both teams, look at both teams, are bottom of the league in seconds per play. I've talked about the Dolphins, how they're slowing the pace down. On the season, 5th and 12th slowest. The last 3 games, these are the 4th and 5th slowest teams in the league. I think that the Dolphins defense is underrated in the market, and then you got 2 on the road in the cold and that whole angle. So I did bet the under 47.5. I think we realized CLV on this number. I also went through the rabbit hole in this market. Home teams that close between -3 and -3.5. Not the same as a home dog between 3 and 3.5. 46 and 49 ATS. The under is 55 and 48. That's 54%. But here's where I found something pretty interesting. If 70% of the cash is on the home team money line, which I think we could expect in this situation, the home team is 13 and 11 ATS. It's 15 and 11 to the under. But what I noticed in the sample is that when the market move on the total is 80% accurate in that sample. So if the market also moves to the under, you're looking at an 11-0 to the under spot that's never gone over before. And that's when I moved on the under immediately, tying all this together. I think it's crazy that when you have, and it's funny because if you look at the spread in that same sample, the spread movement, it makes no difference. This is so rare. You don't see this very often. And it's funny that 70% of cash on the home team, on a home favorite in the situation is what creates a corollary market on the total. I find it interesting, and I've been cashing in spots like this. Oh yeah, I'm on the under 47.5. I'm considering the Dolphins. I might get there because I believe in you, Jim. When you move on it, I'm paying attention.
Yeah, and I wasn't going to, and after seeing, I was going to leave it alone and just talk about it, but I moved on it. What was the juice you got on the under 47.5?
Minus 115.
It's a cent better than what I got, minus 116. Omer says
we got it pretty much the same time. Damn near.
Yeah, we did. Omer says Packers going to smash. I'll be reminding you next week when they do. Please do, Omer. Please do. I'm the perfect guy to fade right now. Just 16-4 over the last 2 weeks. So come fucking get it. All right, that's Thursday Thanksgiving action. Thanksgiving action.
In Omer's defense, home favorites on Thanksgiving has been cashing. I mean, it's been like 4 years in a row now where the home favorites just cash.
It's part of the fun not to agree with people. It's part of the fun not to be yes men, and it's part of the fun when you hear a take that you don't agree with. I don't understand why those Lions fans got so angry. And the Chiefs fans are so angry at us for fading the Chiefs every week. Why wouldn't we? Why the hell wouldn't we fade the Chiefs every week? We've cashed 5 straight weeks. Let's bring on the Chiefs. 3 p.m. Eastern.
Perfect transition, my guy. Perfect transition.
Las Vegas Raiders 2-9, 1-5 on the road at Kansas City Chiefs 10-1, 5-0 at home at Arrowhead Stadium, Kansas City, Missouri. 38 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 3 miles per hour. Omar, I love capping with you, man. It's fun. This stuff is fun. It's
dude's in Paris right now, or he's somewhere in France.
Paris at 2 a.m. I love it. This total is at 42.5 right now. 42.5 minus 109 to the over. It opened minus 108 to the over. So we've got a 1 cent move towards the over, very slight. On the spread here, we have the Chiefs at, depending on where you shop, you can get 12, you can get 12.5. You can pay for a 13 for the Raiders. You can pay for a 13. This opened up with the Raiders plus 13.5 minus 106. They're now plus 13 at minus 119. Part of that move is that, it's not going to be Desmond Ridder. It's going to be Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. From a cash flow standpoint, we have 43% of the tickets and 45% of the cash. So, Raiders Nation has a lot of backers all across North America. I often wonder if you're paying a tax when you're backing the Raiders, but even here, I think people have been noticing that the Chiefs aren't covering, consistently, and they want to get in on getting paid. 57% of the tickets, 55 on the Raiders, 87 and 95 on the over in this one. 87 and 95 on the over. Passing offense for these Raiders, I don't think we need to go into it. It's just now you have Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. They've had 3 different quarterbacks. It doesn't, I don't think, give any kind of help here. Their rushing offense is terrible, though. 32nd in the league, 74.6 yards per game. Red zone offense, 25th at 50%. Third down offense, 24, 35.4%. Their pass defense is 12th in the league. They allow 208.1 yards per game. Their rush defense, 14th, 119.5. Their red zone defense, 24th in the league. They allow touchdowns 64.3% of the time. And their third down defense, 22nd. They allow conversions 41.1% of the time. Raiders coming off their 7th straight loss, 29-19 setback at home to the Broncos. You're running well when you cash the Broncos minus 5.5. I did not deserve to cash it. And I was setting up I was on camera for the live stream when, the Raiders just let go at the 3-yard line or whatever, 5-yard line, whatever it was. They outgained the Broncos 369 to 325. Gardner Minshew was 25-42 for 230 yards, touchdown, and a pick before breaking his collarbone. He's out for the rest of the season. Ridder came in, was 5-10 for 64 yards, but Aiden O'Connell, they've opened up his practice window. He took all the first team reps on Monday. It was an unofficial practice session. Desmond Ridder worked with the second team. And O'Connell should be the starter for the final 6 games if his fractured right thumb doesn't, if it's okay, if there's no complications. Jacoby Myers caught 10 for 121. Trey Tucker caught 7 for 82. And Brock Bowers was held to just 4 for 38. With Zamir White and Alexander Madison hurt, Sincere McCormick and Amir Abdullah combined to run 13 times for 61 yards. Amir Abdullah has a lot of skill. He just has fumbleitis, and he just can't be trusted in that regard. Nate Dogg says Raiders plus 12 is his lean. Omer saying Raiders same every week, play tough first half, then fold like an accordion in the second half. And Jared TG's, I'm on board with the Chiefs don't cover big lines thing, yet I still don't want to bet the Raiders. He says he was happy to take Carolina, but the Raiders, he doesn't know. Raiders were just 4 of 14 on third down, 1 of 5 in the red zone. The defense tried to keep the Raiders in it, held the Broncos to 6 of 15 on third down and 2 of 4 in the red zone. The pass rush was invisible with 1 sack and 2 quarterback hits, but Max Crosby did have 3 tackles for a loss, and he did get 1 quarterback hit in. By the way, that 100th tackle for a loss in the second quarter, he became the 4th player to reach that number since 99 in his first 6 seasons. J.J. Watt, Aaron Donald, DeMarcus Ware. That's the class that he's in. Nate Hobbs and Jacorian Bennett did not play. So, I mean, to think the Raiders are trying. Man, Antonio Pierce has these guys trying. They played without their top 2 running backs, their 2 starters at cornerback, and 2 on the defensive line, 1 at safety. And they're putting out effort. And let's talk about the Chiefs. Now, we know Mahomes doesn't like the Raiders, and he claimed he was going to get them, last time, and the Raiders covered. What will happen here? The passing offense for the Chiefs, 12th, 226.5 yards per game. Rushing offense, 18th, 116.3. Red zone offense, 16th. They only score touchdowns 55.8% of the time. Third down offense, first in the league. They convert 52.7% of the time. Their defense is looking statistically much worse over the last little while of these games not covering. Their pass defense, 18th, allowing 215.5 yards per game. Rush defense, still third at 85.3. Their red zone defense, 14th. They allow touchdowns 52.6% of the time. And here's the big one. Their third down defense, now 20th in the league, allowing conversions 40.7% of the time. Chiefs coming off a tough 30-27 win at Carolina. It was just so much fun to watch, being on Carolina plus 11 and everything just, working. Chiefs won a game decided in the final seconds for the 5th time this season. 8 of the Chiefs' wins have come by 1 score margin. Each team put up 5.8 yards per play. Mahomes was 27 of 37 for 269 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, ran 5 times for 60. Noah Gray led receivers with 4 catches for 66 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kelsey caught 6 for 62. Still needs that touchdown to break the Chiefs record. Kareem Hunt ran 16 times for 68 yards and caught 3 passes for 19 yards. The Chiefs scored on 6 of their 8 possessions. That's how bad their defense is played, I should say. That they score on 6 of their 8 possessions and need a last-second drive to win the game. Offense 9 of 14 on third and fourth down, but it was just 2 of 5 in the red zone. The defense looked vulnerable. The Panthers went 7 of 15 on third and fourth down. Now the Chiefs did hold them to 2 of 6 in the red zone. Pass rush had 2 sacks, 7 quarterback hits. Take it away, Troy. I can see people dissing this already, but wait till they hear how bullish you are. Take it away. Floor is yours.
I don't know how many weeks in a row I could repeat myself with this Kansas City team. I really don't care how these two teams match up. I think there are some matchups that I would like on both sides of the ball. Usually that's the case in any type of gaming breakdown, except for a few. I feel like the Chiefs are perpetually in a sell-high situation. Like, I think it might be in perpetuity at this point. As long as Mahomes and Andy Reid are the combination, the tandem there, perpetually sell high on the Chiefs team. And I think the Raiders are on the exact opposite end of that spectrum. In the ultimate buy low situation, I think they've lost 8 games in a row. And who's going to want to back Desmond Ridder? Who's going to want to back Aiden O'Connell? I didn't really care in this matchup, but as soon as I seen Aiden O'Connell was going to be in at quarterback or likely to be in at quarterback, I was all over it because guess what? I've already touched on the same exact trend a few times already today. The database is all over the Raiders. Divisional home favorites of 10 or more, 7-13 ATS. The Chiefs are 0-2 in that sample. And if you take that sample down to when the total is above 44, the home team is just 4-9 ATS. I see a lot of overtrends, but not one time in this 20-game sample did the market ever move towards the road team. Very surprising. Nuke asked why the Chiefs don't cover, and it's simply because they're a mediocre football team. I'm on the Raiders plus 12.5.
Raiders plus 12.5. Let's just go over Aiden's starts here this year, just to see if we can find some confidence in him. Full participant on Tuesday. He is starting here. So we saw him at home versus Pittsburgh. He went 27 of 40 for 227 yards, a touchdown pick. They lost 32-13. He's not been good this year. He looked better last year. Now he's been watching. He's been watching mediocre quarterback play, and I think that can be extremely helpful in this situation. And I trust him more than Desmond Ridder. Do you think that the over should be bet quickly here? It wasn't really on my radar until now, but this 42.5 all of a sudden seems pretty low with a leaky Chiefs defense. And we know if the Chiefs need to score, they go score. That's their ability here. And that's why That's why they're the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions, trying to win a 3rd straight Super Bowl, which no team has ever done in NFL history. So why are you not on the over?
That's a good question. I probably should be on the over in this situation. I think all the elements of an over tie up. I don't know, Jimmy. Maybe it is time to move. And I'm even looking at Aiden O'Connell against blitz. We know the Chiefs like the blitz a lot. Guess when Aiden O'Connell grades out the best as a quarterback? It's when he's blitzed. So I see no reason not to bet the over. If I could get, it's over the 41. We got some time here to move on this. It's time. It's time, Jim. Let's do it. I'm with you.
Well, what did you get first on the Raiders? Raiders plus
12.5.
What juice?
At minus 110.
And then you are. I'm going to add the over when the show's over. Over 42.5. Let me know if you move on that here while we set up the next spot on the board. And I do have interest in the Raiders. 2-3 says I like playing against the Chiefs on the spread, but I got to pump the brakes in this spot. And I also don't believe ever that you're playing with the house's money. And I don't think that at all. And that's why I haven't bet it already, because it's not the house's money. It's my money. I earned it. I capped it. I got it. And so I'm not going to sit here going, oh, look.
How bad is this weather going to be?
It's not, 38 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, but only 3-mile-per-hour winds.
It's good football weather.
All right, let's roll on. I'm going to be moving on this over as soon as the show's over, and I might add the Raiders as well. But I'm telling you, the whole thing about it's not the house's money is the reason why I haven't bet it yet, because I never want to think like that, and I hate when people say that to me. Okay, let's roll on here. Jared TG, though, says, I hear you. I just wish it was any team except the Raiders. Raiders are my least favorite team in the league. I dislike everything about them besides Crosby. Says maybe I should just bet it. And Jim DeWigger saying 37 and no win Friday in Kansas City. Good weather. There you go. That is Raiders Chiefs at 3 p.m. Eastern. Troy on the Raiders plus 12.5. We assume that he'll be moving on the over here at some point. Let us know.
Oh yeah.
And I'll be on the over as well.
42.5 minus 110.
What was it? How much money was on the over at this point? It's 87% of tickets, 95% cash, and this line's not moving. Makes me a little nervous, but I'm going to trust the cap. All right, let's roll on. Next up, we have Sunday, December 1st. We head into some Sunday action. We got to speed this up a little bit, as it was about an hour for the first 4 games.
Oh yeah, we'll pump through it. Jim. One last thing. I told you this before. I've said it in chat. You guys, whoever's a normal pubber knows that this is the case. The money, the cash flow on the total is always the same. It's always the same. We're averaging 70% of bet, 70% of cash on the over all season long. Something's drastically changed in the way that's collected, or the public's just aping in on overs. Regardless of the situation, the profile for this market, over or not with the public, it's going over. I like the over 42.5 as well.
I like it too. I'm going to bet it as soon as it show's over. And then I've got to decide whether or not I want the Raiders as well. Let's move on. Chargers, Falcons, how we start Sunday action. Chargers 7-4, 3-2 on the road. Falcons 6-5, 3-3 at home at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. Let's get into the line history here for this one. This is our start for Sunday action. Chargers right now are listed at -1. They're just showing us the -1 number because we see 2s and there's 2.5s, but at the -1, it opened at -110. The market's just been moving towards the Chargers. They're now at -123, 13 cents of movement towards the Superchargers. From a total perspective here, we have a 48. 48, slightly juiced to the over. It's moved 1 cent from -107 to -108. Let's get to the cash flow here for this one. We have... here we go. 63% of the tickets and 83% of the cash on the spread on the Chargers. On the money line, it's 91 and 80. And on the total, it's 70% of tickets and 78% cash on the over. Start with the Chargers passing offense, 20th in the league, 24.5 yards per game. Their rushing offense, 13th at 118.1. Their red zone offense, 13th. They score touchdowns 57.1% of the time. Their third down offense, 16th. They convert 38.5% of the time. Their pass defense, 10th. They allow 203.9 yards per game. Rush defense 15th, 119.7 yards per game. Their red zone defense is 4th. It's been good all year. They allow touchdowns 45.8% of the time. Their third down defense is 8th, allowing conversions 34.5% of the time. On a short week after having their 4-game winning streak snapped in a 30-23 setback at home to the Ravens on Monday night. And they were outgained by the Ravens 389 to 285. They were outclassed. The offense only averaged 4.8 yards per play. They went 54 minutes between touchdowns. Herbert was 21 to 36 for 218 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Lad McConkey, despite the shoulder injury, caught 6 passes for 83 yards. J.K. Dobbins ran 6 times for 40 yards, caught 3 passes for 19 yards. Then he leaves with a knee injury at the half. He's listed as questionable to play this week. Gus Edwards failed to make anything happen as RB1 in the second half. He looked bad. He did get that touchdown from the 1-yard line, but didn't look good. He lost 9 yards. I mean, he went into the second half at 20 yards. He finished the game at 11. The Ravens went 11 of 18 on 3rd and 4th down. They were perfect 2 of 2 in the red zone. The pass rush was invisible in the loss. They had no injuries to blame. They had 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits, and Eli Apple with a hamstring injury may not be able to play this week in addition to Dobbins. Let's talk about the Falcons. Passing offense 5th in the league at 243.6 yards per game, but Cousins on the hot seat. Rushing offense 14th at 117.9 yards per game. Red zone offense 22nd, 53.1%. Third down offense 20th, 37.4. Their pass defense been bad all year, 26th. They allow 229.9 yards per game through the year. Rush defense 19th at 127.2. Red zone defense 21st. They allow touchdowns 61.1% of the time. Their third down defense is the 3rd worst in the NFL, allowing conversions 46.1% of the time. And they come in off their bye week. They come in off an ugly 38-6 loss at Denver in week 11. I knew a lot of cappers who thought that the Falcons would bounce back after losing to the Saints, and I didn't think that. I thought they were going to go out there and just lose again. I didn't think they would get crushed, but I was on Denver. They're the lone team in the NFC South with a winning record, so they have the opportunity to get into the playoffs for the first time since 2017, despite losing 2 straight. Cousins has not thrown a touchdown pass in back-to-back games. That's the first time in his whole career that he has done that. The running game was held to a season-low 50 yards in the Broncos loss. The defense allowed 400 yards to Bo Nix. Bo Nix went 28 of 33 for 307 yards, 4 touchdowns. The Falcons can't get any pressure on opposing quarterbacks. They're last in the league with 10 sacks through 11 games. What is the Chargers' strong point? It's their offensive line. The Falcons gave up 199 yards after the catch. I mean, that just shows that they just weren't trying. That's the most they allowed all season. And look at these injuries. So the first thing is Troy's talked so much about Troy Anderson. He returned in week 11 from the 5-game absence, played 13 snaps, and then aggravated his knee injury. So they're going to still have, it's going to be Caden Ellis and Nate Landman at linebacker. Troy Anderson, we assume at this point, from everything I've read, is not going to be in the lineup. They have their cornerback Mike Hughes with the neck injury, nickelback D. Alfred with a hamstring injury. Those guys, they're hoping are back here, and we'll have a better idea on tomorrow's injury report. They have Taquan Graham with a pec injury and James Smith-Williams, their defensive line with a tibia injury. They were both put on IR, so they're not coming back. Charlie Werner with a concussion. They hope to have him back. Inside linebacker J.D. Bertrand also in concussion protocol. He's supposed to be back, and so is Antonio Hamilton, a senior. He's supposed to be back here. Then we have Darnell Mooney with a hamstring injury. You have cornerback Kevin King, the 3rd player in concussion protocol. Casey Washington, the 4th player in concussion protocol. And defensive lineman Zach Harrison with a knee injury. So that information is crucial on tomorrow's injury report. I do think this is a bounce back spot for the Falcons, but I just can't get over their inability to pressure a quarterback. And it's just a sticking point for me at this point. I don't think I want the Chargers on a short week, but I can understand why they're being bet. Take it away, Troy. Chargers, Falcons, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia.
God, man, we're just on the same page lately. It's really a beautiful thing. I have really good, really, really high hopes for the direction we're headed, man. But the Falcons coming off their bye week, which they needed badly. The last 2 games, 0-2, losing to New Orleans, losing to Denver, only scoring 23 points in 2-game span. A team that gets absolutely no pressure, no pass rush, and they're not even trying to scheme. They're not even doing anything different, like from a week-to-week basis. Like, it's just the same old defense. Extremely soft, lax, bend but don't break defense. It just smells like a defense that's primed for a guy, Justin Herbert, to sit in the pocket, deliver the ball downfield, find the soft spots in the zone. I feel like we could trust him to do that in this situation. And they have the Falcons, their offense is boom or bust. They struggle versus competent defenses. And even though I talked a lot of shit about this Chargers defense, they're a competent defense. They're just not an elite defense. That was really the point that I was trying to make. And I'm not sure that they're not an elite defense that could compete versus elite offenses at the level that they were performing. Against this Falcons boom or bust type of offense, I could see him having some success. But at the same time, the Chargers have been talking about regression. Justin Herbert, he's been incredible. I have really nothing bad to say. I think he's having the best season of his career with the weapons he has at his disposal. Obviously, he has better coaching, but the defense is good. They're not great. They were just overheated, I guess, and needed an adjustment in the market. It's like when your stocks, when your crypto hits that extension, you know it's overheated. You know it's due to regress. That's exactly what just happened with the Chargers over the past 2 weeks. Now, they only took one loss, so I think there's a little bit more downside. So it makes me want the Falcons. I feel like there's a lot of different moving pieces. Without the Falcons' ability to scheme any pressure, there's no way I can back the Falcons, and it's just not a spot that I'm excited to back the Chargers in either. So short week, yeah, this is just a pass for me, Jim. We could just cut the fat here. Maybe this market moves up to 3, then I'll start to consider if I start seeing it tick towards that 3. If I think it's going to get there, maybe I do move on the Chargers at that point. But for right now, it's a pass.
Nuke says Chargers on a short week traveling across the country for a 1 p.m. start. Their history in this spot is horrendous. Yeah, I agree. I can't have money on a football team that can't pressure a quarterback. I can't because I can't watch it. I lose my mind. I just can't. I can't watch it. I can't see the opposition with time. It just drives me.
I'm sick of watching the Falcons rush forward with no stunts, with no blitz, no help, no creativity. It's sad. I can't do it.
Yeah, and RVD says the kicker from the Falcons is absolutely horrible. Yeah, it's he
was great last year.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense how bad he's been here. All right. And Jim Dewar says they're 2-1 in this year in that situation, though. Well, it's Harbaugh has a great history in these early games. It's more of a Harbaugh thing. Like he was excellent in this role when he was with the 49ers. So Harbaugh always has his team ready to go. He's got great stats on the early Eastern game, but the Chargers as a football team don't. Yeah, I'm not on this one here. For those of you guys watching, our Cappers contest show is Wednesday at 5 p.m. It's tomorrow at 5 p.m. Because of the Thanksgiving week. So we'll have 24 hours to sit with all of this information and then hammer it one more time. We went 3-2 again, so we're 5 games over 500 in the Circa Millions. Let's roll on. Next up, 1 p.m. Eastern with the Pittsburgh Steelers 8-3, 4-2 on the road at Cincinnati Bengals 4-7, 1-4 at home at Paycor Stadium, Cincinnati, Ohio. Very cold in Cincinnati, 27 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 7 miles per hour. That I don't remember it being that cold when I rode it. That's the same cold as it is in Lambeau. It just doesn't seem right, but that is the truth. It's freezing cold in Cincinnati. So that's the weather. 27 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 7 miles per hour. That was not a mistake here because I did all the weather last night after the live stream. Let's get into the line history here for this one. We have a total of 47. I mean, if you just think of the history of these divisional battles between these two teams, when do you ever see a 47? It's just alarmingly high, but I know that the Bengals are a vicious passing offense here. Has been a 3-cent move to the under. It opened up at -107 to the under. It's now -110 to the under. Let's get to this spread. In the spread here, we have Cincinnati at -2.5 at -119. Opened up at -114. So we've had 5 cents of movement to the under. To the Bengals. We have 5 cents of movement to the Bengals. We did have this -2.5 at -129, about 30 hours ago. So there has been 10 cents of buyback on the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Let's get into the cash flow. From a cash flow standpoint, we have 79% of the tickets and 74% of the cash on the Steelers. That's a little surprising to me. You have 27% of tickets and 58% cash on the under. I often love the unders in these divisional battles, but a little hesitant here. Let's start with the Steelers. Passing offense 26th in the league, 192.8 yards per game. The Steelers allow. Their rushing offense allow. Their passing offense 26th in the league. They throw for 192.8 yards per game. Rushing offense 8th. They run for 135.2. Their red zone offense is bad. It's not changed with Russell Wilson. They're still the third worst, 44.7%. Cash rate. Third down offense 15th. They convert 38.9% of the time. And their defense is not quite as good as we expected it to be. Their passing defense 17th. They allow 214.9 yards per game. Their rush defense 4th. They allow 90.3 yards per game on the ground. That's pretty good, obviously. Red zone defense 11th. They allow touchdowns 51.5% of the time. Their third down defense has been great all year. 4th. They allow conversions 33.1% of the time. Steelers come in off extra rest and prep after having their 5-game winning streak snapped. But the Bengals come in off of a bye week, so they have the advantage there. The Steelers come in after that 24-19 loss in snowy conditions in Cleveland. Russell Wilson, 21-28 for 270 yards and a touchdown. He also lost a fumble. Calvin Austin had 3 catches for 78 yards. And Pickens was a mess. Complaining about the snow, complaining about the weather. He was fighting some guy. He was fighting on that Hail Mary at the end of the game. He wasn't even involved in the play. There are some character issues at times with Pickens, but he's a great talent. Freiermuth had 4 catches for 59. Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris are just such a giant part of this offense. They both run the ball and can catch passes out of the backfield. Warren ran 11-45, caught 3 for 19. Najee ran 16 for 41, caught 2 for 13. Steelers were just 8-19 on 3rd and 4th down. The defense couldn't get stops when the game was on the line. We haven't really seen that from this group. They held the Browns to 1 of 10 on 3rd down, but allowed them to go a perfect 4-4 on 4th down. They allowed the Browns to go 3 of 4 in the red zone. Pass rush only had 1 sack, but did have 6 quarterback hits. Dante Jackson had a pick, and Alex Highsmith missed his 2nd straight game with an ankle injury. Let's talk about these Bengals. They get the most yards through the air of any team in the NFL, 262.7 yards per game, but the rushing offense 27th, even though I kind of like it with Chase Brown as the main guy now, but they only get 91.5 yards per game. The red zone offense 3rd in the league, 69.7%. Their third down offense they convert 45.2% of the time. It's very strong. Their pass defense 23rd, rush defense 21st. I mean, it's just their defense is poor. Their red zone defense is 31st. They allow touchdowns 70.6% of the time. Their third down defense 27th. They allow conversions 44.4% of the time. Coming in off the bye, last seen in a 34-27 loss of the Chargers in their Week 11 Monday nighter. It was their 6th defeat by 1 score margin. I mean, so Jamar Chase has 7 catches for 75 yards. He also had 2 touchdowns. So he's topped 1,000 yards for the 4th straight season. He's the NFL's reception leader. And I've been saying this since the beginning of the year. You didn't extend him when he wanted it. You franchised T. Higgins when he didn't want it. And this is what Chase is saying. They ask, how did the Bengals start executing late in games? And this is his answer. He says, I don't know. Ask Zach. Ask the coaches. Don't ask me. That's not my job. I play football on the field. I don't call plays for us, so I really can't do nothing. That's a guy who didn't get extended. That's a guy who doesn't care that much. Trey Hendrickson, we saw him yelling at Zach Taylor in the game. Now, that defense did allow 272 yards in the first half. Evan McPherson is 6 for 10 on field goals beyond 39 yards. They have yet to beat a team with a winning record this year, and their playoffs are on life support. Burrow's having one of the best seasons of his career. Against the Chargers, he went 28-50 for 356 yards, 3 touchdowns. His line is always a problem. He's running for his life. He still leads the NFL in passing yards, leads in completions, leads in touchdown passes. He joined Matt Ryan as the only quarterbacks in NFL history to lose consecutive games while throwing for at least 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Now, yes, part of the problem has been injuries. Marius Mims had to start at right tackle when Trent Brown went down for an injury. He looked terrible. And then starting left tackle Orlando Brown Jr. is out with knee and fibula injuries. B.J. Hill and Sheldon Rankins have missed time with injuries. And Sheldon Rankins was sick 2 weeks ago. DJ Turner is on IR with the fractured clavicle. So they have injury issues. In a perfect spot for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I don't trust them. I want to back them so bad, but I just don't trust them. I don't trust their character. They should have, you got to feed your playmakers. And I mean pay them. And they didn't. And now they're dealing with the consequences. Take it away for us here, Troy. Steelers, Bengals.
You've been warning Bengals backers all season long about that psychological angle all season. And you could definitely see it. You could definitely see it play out pretty much every Sunday. But I want to start with the Steelers because I feel like they're a little bit weird to look at, especially when you're looking at advanced metrics. I'm sure if you watch the Steelers play football games, you could see it, right? When Russell stepped in at quarterback, it was clear that there was some upside. It was time for them to trend up in the market, especially offensively, what he was able to bring to the table. However, for the past few weeks, we're starting to see holes in that. Their EPA per play, generally overall, versus what they're doing on third down, indicates a significant amount of regression. Russell Wilson has his highest yards per attempt in his career, his ADOT, highest of his career, but the lowest completion percentage of his career, or hovering right around the lowest, right? Obviously, this is a team that has issues on their offensive line. They can't generate line yards in the ground. It's hard to quantify just where this offense is at for the Steelers. Now, the defense has been great. They have showed some holes as well. I feel like there's a lot of ups and downs. There's good and bad you got to take with this Steelers team. And the Bengals, just like you said, where is this team at psychologically? I mean, they're coming off 2 losses against two great teams that they should have beaten, the Ravens and the Chargers. They're hanging on to playoff hopes by a thread. I think they have like a 10% chance to make the playoffs. All that turmoil with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, the drama, it's all coming back to bite them this season. I'm sure there's some regret in the upper offices with how they handled the situation. It's a really hard game to quantify because you're right. This looks like a clear Bengals laying 3 points against the Steelers, 7-3 or whatever the record is, Steelers. It looks like the bookies are opening up their arms to Steelers money. All the people that want to bet the Steelers, bet the Tomlin rah-rah spot off a loss, just looks way too easy to back the Steelers. There's no chance in hell my money's going to be on the Steelers unless we see this market move significantly towards them, which I think is out of the equation. Database would say if this closes 2.5 or 3, as long as this market, the spread does not move towards the Steelers, it's a Bengals spot. So I'm only looking towards the Bengals to pass for now. But I might get the balls to get on the Bengals come game time. And now I'm thinking about it. I have a great mix of dogs and favorites this week. So dogs are to come. I've been on a lot of favorites so far.
I had expected to be on the Bengals. I capped the game for a long time, thinking about them, I've added in quotes for some of these games just because, that stuff interests me beyond measure. And I can't trust them. I cannot trust them. I don't trust them. I'm not going to put my money on them. It's Bengals or nothing, no doubt about it. But at this point, with 16-4 the last 2 weeks, I'd prefer nothing. But I'm not going to be on the Steelers, and then I can't. Hendrickson yelling at Zach Taylor. This defense has looked like a sieve all year long. In such a crucial game against the Chargers, with all eyes on them, they allow how many yards in that first half? 272 yards in the first half of that football game. They haven't bought in. I don't know if it's Zach Taylor. It's probably Zach Taylor. I'm going to have to stay off of the spot.
Agreed.
We move on. 1 p.m. Eastern. Arizona Cardinals 6-5, 2-3 on the road. The Minnesota Vikings 9-2, 4-1 at home. We're at US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota. This game interests me enormously. I can't wait to talk about it. I love the opportunity to cap these games with Detroit and the cappers in the chat. And the way we have it set up where I do my part, then you do yours. And at that point, I can listen to you while looking at everybody in the chat. I just think this is working. Let's get into the line history here for this Cardinals-Minnesota game. This game I just love, but I haven't moved on it yet. We have Minnesota -3.5 at +101. They opened up -3.5, -106. So we've had 7 cents of movement towards the Cardinals at this number at 3.5. On the total here for this one, we have let's grab this. All right, we have 44.5. It's juiced to the over. You see a lot of 45s. This opened at 46. It's dropped a 1.5 to 44.5. That's an important note. It's dropped a 1.5. Let's get to the cash flow for this one. We have, sorry about that. Get this up. A lot of games here. Okay, we have 67% of the tickets and 83% of the cash on the Vikings, and yet this line is moved towards the Cardinals. 77% of the tickets and 75% of the cash on the over, and yet this line has dropped 1.5 points. So where the public is betting right now, the market is moving against. Dougie Wise says he has interest in the Cardinals and Turnsy Cardinals money line. Omar saying Vikes very shaky, but they just keep on winning. And Jim Dewigger says this hook scares him. Let's roll. We're going to start with the Cardinals. Passing offense 23rd, 201.7 yards per game. Rushing offense 6th, 140.3 yards per game. Their red zone offense is 8th. They score touchdowns 59.4% of the time, and their third down offense is 11th. They convert 41.4% of the time. Their passing defense is 20th. They allow 218.6 yards per game. Their rush defense is 17th. They gain 121.8 yards per game. Their red zone defense is 8th. They allow touchdowns just 48.7% of the time, and their third down defense is second worst in the league, which is, again, when you watch it, you're like, really? 48.2% of the time they allow conversions. Cardinals had their 4-game winning streak snapped in that 16-6 loss at Seattle. They had averaged over 29 points per game in their previous 3 games, but Seattle held them to 298 total yards and 49 yards rushing. They sacked Kyler 5 times. Kyler was 24-37 for 285 yards and a pick, no touchdowns. Trey McBride led receivers with 12 catches for 133 yards. He's just a monster. He's a superstar. That's why he's becoming a superstar. James Conner ran 7 times for 8 yards. You know, I try to stay away from player props, but James Conner, Tony Pollard, these guys, when they lay an egg, they fire the next week. Now you're going up against this Vikings rush defense that, you're going up against this Vikings rush defense that is first in the league. They allow 74.7 yards per game. So it's not something I'd be rushing to hammer, but I've watched James Conner. He's full of character and he bounces back in these situations, but I can't go up against this Vikings rush defense. He did catch 5 passes for 41 yards, but the offense struggled. The Cardinals didn't get 1 rushing first down all game. They went 3 of 13 on 3rd and 4th down, 0 of 2 in the red zone. The defense tried to keep the Cardinals in the game. Pass rush had 5 sacks, 6 quarterback hits. Garrett Williams had an interception. Seahawks went 7 of 14 on 3rd down, 1 of 2 in the red zone, and that won them the game. Let's talk about the Vikings. Passing offense, 10th in the league, 234 yards per game. Rushing offense, 15th at 117.1. Red zone offense is 21st, 53.9% conversion rate. Their third down offense is 12th. They convert first downs on 3rd down 40.3% of the time. Passing defense 28th. They allowed 242.5 yards per game. That's actually improved a tiny bit. And as I said, the rush defense best. Red zone defense just 27th. They allow touchdowns 65.4% of the time, but their third down defense is 9th. 34.5%. So Vikings coming off a 30-27 overtime victory at home over the Bears. They were comfortably up 27-16 before the Bears scored 11 points in the last 22 seconds to send it to overtime. Darnold, 22 of 34 for 330 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. The offense put up 452 total yards and 7 yards per play. Addison had another great game, 8 passes, 8 catches for a career high, 162 yards, a touchdown. TJ Hawkinson caught 7 for 114. You know this offense is humming because Justin Jefferson only had 2 catches for 27 yards, and they still put up 30 points. Aaron Jones ran 22 times for 160 yards and a touchdown, caught 3 for 23. He did lose a fumble. They went 6 of 13 on 3rd down, 3 of 7 in the red zone. The defense held the Bears to 6 of 17 on 3rd down, but then allowed them to go a perfect 3 for 3 in the red zone. It's a big problem for them. Greenard led the pass rush with 6 tackles, 4 for a loss, and 2 sacks, but Ivan Pace Jr. has a hamstring injury. Cam Robinson at left tackle has a foot injury. They both left the game. They're listed as questionable. We'll get a better idea tomorrow. And safety Jay Ward dealing with an elbow injury. He's also listed as questionable. Take it away here for us, Troy. This is such a fascinating football game with so many angles. Cardinals, Vikings.
This is a tough matchup. It's really hard not to see value on the Cardinals in this spot. Kyler Murray, I was heavy on this Cardinals team. It was because the market flipped in division. I was very bullish on that spot. I've been betting it all season, but betting it for 2 seasons, and it's been great. But Kyler Murray, I mean, he did what he does sometimes, and he pulled the disappearing act. He could do that from time to time. He seems to fold up if the run game isn't working. The few instances that's been the case this season against the Lions is one of them. Against Seattle is another one that we just seen. He just seemed pretty uncomfortable, like he was seeing ghosts. He was hearing ghosts. He was hearing footsteps. And they lost that game because of 2 things. And it was that pick 6 and it was terrible 3rd down offense because they were bad on 3rd down. And it was very frustrating to watch. But I don't know if I'm ready to sell this Cardinals team. I think you brought up some good points with James Conner, the character and that type of guy. They definitely still have a dynamic rushing attack. I don't want to let one game get me off of that. And the defense has played incredible. Despite that 30th preseason ranking, they outgained the Seahawks. They had a better offensive EPA. They still lost. I'm not ready to sell this team, I don't think. And the Vikings, they are a team I'm actively looking to sell. I think Darnold's a one-trick pony. You defend the middle of the field. You defend Justin Jefferson, like the Bears were able to do this past week, and you're going to be able to keep the game close. And the Bears' offense, I mean, they really played great despite that Flores polarizing scheme. And it's partially due to a mobile quarterback. You saw Caleb get out of the pocket, make some plays with his feet, and guess what? You got another situation just like that here. This is just a team in the Vikings that outperformed expectations all season long. I believe the Cardinals are the right side in this game. But it's just hard because you look at Kyler Murray against the blitz, teams that blitz like the Lions and the Commanders, what those two teams were able to do to this offense. I don't know if I'm ready to trust him against Flores. And again, the Vikes had the number one run D. I can't get past my cap without pointing that out like you did already. But just to hammer that home, because you take away this run game, you put Kyler up against the blitz, I don't know if I could trust him. Now, what I will say is this market, I mean, pretty much any way you slice this market, opening at 3.5, probably closing at 3.5 in this situation, at least unless there's some injury news that drives this line one way or the other. I think that the total moving towards the under favors the Cardinals. So I was talking about that earlier. It's definitely a heavy split between market moving towards the under and over. It's a complete split. Both teams, both sides are over 70% ATS, depending on if the market moves up or down in this situation. So I'm looking towards the Cardinals. I'm not moving on it. I think there's other spots that I'd like to attack before this one.
D. Jenkins saying, doesn't this market tell us that the under is a good look with all the money on the over and it dropping 1.5? Did you have any interest in that?
I will say that I noticed in this type of market, when it drops below 44, it's basically an undefeated under trend. That 44 is key. It's definitely still leans to the under, but that's the number. Dropping from 46.5 to 45 is not that big of a deal, in my opinion. 44.5, not that big of a deal. Hits 44, big deal.
What is this red zone defense for you? Or sorry, I should say, if I'm looking at red zone stats, this Cards defense for you, because both the teams are complete opposites of each other. Cardinals have this very strong red zone defense, but they allow third downs nonstop. The Vikings have this porous red zone defense. They allow touchdowns, but they don't allow first downs on third down. They shut you down.
It's because I think Flores' scheme is fundamentally flawed. He wants to continue to blitz. He wants to drop 8 in coverage. He wants to have this polarized scheme. And he hasn't changed. Like, he wants it in the red zone. I don't know if it's a pride thing or if that's an issue, but that's because I believe it was a very similar situation last year and in years past. That's definitely something to be called out. And the Cardinals, I feel like that's the strength of their defense. I feel like that's clearly what they're trying to do is bend but don't break, lock up in the red zone.
How do you compare the Bears defense here in US Bank Stadium, Minneapolis, Minnesota, the Bears defense to the Cardinals defense? Because that Bears defense got gashed pretty good by the Vikings.
That's a very, very interesting comparison there and a good benchmark. I really can't give you a clear comparison at this point just because the first thing I'm thinking of, I can't get past the fact that I doubt the effort the Bears are given, especially defensively.
I think that's true because when there's a good red zone defense against Darnold, he tends to force it to Jefferson. We've seen a lot of picks, in the red zone. At this point, I thought this was going to open up for me and I was going to have a spot to move on, whether that was going to be the Cardinals or the under. I have this thing like when people lose money on a football team and they're like, I've learned I don't want to go back to it. That's when I'm like, oh, that's when my interest peaks. Because I think a lot of people are feeling that same sentiment, and I'm going to get value on the situation.
I mean, this is crazy right here. I mean, I'm looking at a 28-game sample, and in 12 of these games, the home team has won by 3. So the 3 is a key number. I don't think we're going to see this dip down to 3 either. It's probably closing 3.5.
Jermaine saying Jefferson 35th in separation out of 79. Yeah, It's a well. I need to work on this game. Sit with this game. Talk about it on the Cappers contest.
You want to know what's funny about that, Jermaine? I was thinking about that when you have and I've been against this in my own division. I was the Justin Jefferson of the NAI. I got bracket coverage. So what was I a lot of times? I was a decoy. I was running a streak. I was clearing out space for my teammates to catch balls behind me. And I think that's what they're doing. I mean, that's a smart way to play them, right? I mean, at the end of the day, these teams want to win, especially a team like the Vikings.
All right, so no official action here, but Arizona, I find I might get to Arizona, and I may get to the under, and we move on. And Troy, that's the same thing with you. You may get to Arizona. Is there under in play?
I probably won't get to the under just because I feel so strongly. Even if we take below that 44, it'll only make me more confident in the side. As long as we're getting 3.5, I'm only looking towards the Cardinals. I don't think I would want an under.
Let's roll on. 1 p.m. Eastern. Indianapolis Colts 5-7, 2-4 on the road. New England Patriots 3-9, 1-4 at home. We're at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. 40 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 8 miles per hour. Let's get into the line history to get this one started. We have New England at a 3. They are showing a 2.5 here, and I like that they are just because it gives you a better idea of the line movement. So New England opened up at plus 2.5 at minus 103. They're now plus 2.5 at plus 109. The last 3-cent move happened an hour and 4 minutes ago. So we have a legitimate move towards the Colts. Let's get to the total here. From a total perspective, we have a 42. You see a lot of 42.5s on the board, but again, this is just going to give you an idea of where it is at 42. It opened at minus 107. It's now minus 116. It did get up to minus 119. That was on Sunday night. So we've dropped 3 cents since then. But still, that is a move to the over and a move to the Colts. That move to the Colts slightly stronger than the move to the over. When we get to the cash in this one, we have 28% of the tickets and 26% of the cash on the Patriots. So the Colts are a public spot, 72 and 74. This is exactly the situation that Troy bullishly cashed on the Ravens and the Eagles on the Sunday nighter and the Monday nighter. Exactly the same. Mm-hmm. But he can touch on that here. But of course, you game recognized game, and that you were so bullish and so confident. I also won my pool, the week pool. I went 11-2 on sides, and it was just because I switched it to the Ravens, and I was going to switch it back to the Chargers, and it locked 5 minutes before the game. It's so embarrassing. I shouldn't. But you
own it. I love it. I'm the same way, bro.
It's embarrassing, but I was going to switch it back, and then it locked. 17% of tickets, 35% of cash on the under. So we have 83 and 65 on the over. Let's get into this one. We'll start with the Colts. Passing offense, 24th in the league, 199.7 yards per game. Their rushing offense, 17th, 116.7. Their red zone offense, 24th. Their third down offense, 23rd. Look, it's not being a very good offense this year. Passing defense is 27th. They allow 233.3 yards per game. Their rush defense, 27th. They allow 142.6 yards per game. Their red zone defense, 18th. They allow touchdowns 59.1% of the time. Their third down defense, 28th. They allow third downs 44.6% of the time. It's not a good offense. It's not a good defense. But I have backed them often this year. They're 5-7. I do have them at plus 140 to make the playoffs. They come off a disappointing 24-6 loss at home to the Lions. They now lost 4 or 5, 11 first downs and just 268 total yards. They were again without Bernard Raymond at left tackle. So it was another game where they had 3 rookie linemen and, a very young quarterback, and it just didn't work. Richardson, 11-28 for 172 yards. No touchdowns, no picks. Led the ground attack, too. He ran 10 times for 61 yards. Pittman led receivers with 6 catches for 96 yards. 3 of 13 on third and fourth down. 0 of 2 in the red zone. The defense couldn't get the Lions off the field. The Lions went 9 of 15 on third down. Dominated time of possession, 37-1 to 22-59. They allowed the Lions to go 3 of 4 in the red zone. Now, the pass rush did have 3 sacks and 9 quarterback hits. Let's talk about the Patriots. Rushing offense, 32nd. They allow passing offense, 32nd. They allow 167.3 yards per game. or no, Scott, sorry, too many numbers. Their passing offense is 32nd. They only throw for 167.3 yards per game. Their rushing offense, 21st. They have 112.8 yards per game. Ramondre Stevenson has a monster game, and then he completely disappears. And then he does generally bounce back, but he's coming off just a horrific performance. Red zone offense, 29th. Third down offense, 26th. They're not to be trusted. Their passing defense, 22nd. Rush defense, 18th. Their red zone defense, 19th. Their third down defense, 18th. This is a bottom 10 defense that we thought was going to be a strong suit for them. They're coming off an ugly 34-15 loss at Miami, down 31-0 going into the fourth quarter. Drake made 22 of 37 for 222 yards, touchdown and a pick. He also ran 5 times for 26 yards and lost a fumble. Demario Douglas led receivers with 5 catches for 62 yards. Austin Hooper caught 4 for 59 touchdown, but it was the ground game that was horrific. Ramondre Stevenson ran 8 times for 13 yards. The offense put up 4.3 yards per play, 3 of 14 on third down, and didn't run a single play in the red zone. The defense did hold the Dolphins to 4 of 12 on third down, but they allowed them to go 3 of 4 in the red zone. Pass rush struggled again, finishing with just 2 sacks and 2 quarterback hits. Take it away here for us, Troy. Colts, Patriots, and Foxborough.
See, this makes me realize that I have to publish some of the things I'm doing in some way, shape, or form. I spent a lot of time looking at these markets, delineating between the market types, and you talked about how this is very similar to what we've seen in the Ravens and the Eagles games. But I see 2 completely different markets, and the first reason I see that is because we've seen those markets open at 3 or 3.5, which implies much more strength, and I'm open below the 3 and moving towards the 3. We also had high totals of 47 or bigger. And that also creates a much different outcome, or at least historically, that has created a much different outcome in favor of the road team. In this case, home teams that close between 2.5 and 3, open and close between 2.5 and 3, including all the times in those cases where it has moved towards the road team. With a total of 44 or less, the home team's 10-3 ATS, 10-8 straight up, 13-5 to the under. And the sharp action in this profile is 12-2. So the line movement in this scenario is not very strong. It hasn't really resulted. All that it tells me is that the line movement in this case to the 3 is giving too much credit, too much value. It's basically it's moved too much. You've heard people talk about lines. This is before, I came in and hammered. No, the line hasn't moved too much. We needed to move that much to move on it with confidence. Well, in this case, historically, it would say that this number moved too much when it hits 3. Because we do see a lot of these games in this sample land on the 3, just like we just talked about the market in the last matchup. And the Colts last week, I backed both of these teams in some way, shape, or form last week. I had the over in the Patriots game. I had the Colts last week. And if you told me that the Lions scored 24 points, I would have told you we're covering. We're covering for certain. That's just testament to how good this Lions team truly is with their defense, as well as a testament to how good the Colts defense has become, especially relative to where they were early in the season. And outside of the AR, the Anthony Richardson designed runs, which is extremely scary, by the way, when they run quarterback power. He runs the ball like Marshawn Lynch. Like, this guy's a fucking savage when you get him around the edge, get him some open field to run in. But they generate absolutely no line yards for Jonathan Taylor. Richardson's ADOT is 14.1 yards. That's insane. That right there speaks volumes that he's still developing as a quarterback in this league. Obviously has incredible upside and potential, but he's currently not where he needs to be. The Patriots struggled mightily this past week, and it's really painful to try to look towards the Patriots in this market and in this matchup because they could not get anything going offensively. But what I noticed after the fact, after the game, I looked back at the matchup because I was struggling with, because I absolutely hammered the over in this game. It's my biggest bet last week. It's my favorite spot. It was the only spot I posted a database, a trend for. And I loved the over because I thought the Patriots were going to do their job and put up the points we needed from them. But I found my loophole, why it didn't turn out the way I thought it would. Drake May, he excels in short game passing. Actually, a huge volume of his success came in short game passing, touchdowns, yards, all of his, even most of his attempts are shorter. These are drastic splits when we're talking about passes of 10 yards or less or passes of 10 yards or more in terms of how successful and how good of a quarterback he is. And the Dolphins, they excel against the short passing game. I didn't see that angle. They're one of the top teams in EPA against the short passes of 10 yards or less. And it also explains why they did so well against the Rams, because the Rams are another team that like to exploit you. They hit you short. They hit you short. They hit you short. And then some of those short plays that they hit turn out to be big yards. But that's why they did so good, because they defend that so well. But that's not the case with this Colts team, who play the bend but don't break, cover 3. They open their arms to the short passing game. Maybe they switched, but we know they're playing cover 3, so that won't be the case. So if I could trust this Patriots offense to put up 17 to 20 points, I think they cover this spread over 50% of the time. The database would agree. I have a small bet on the Pats +3.
Wow. So the mistake I was making with the 3-point, 2.5 or 3-point road favorite is the low total and the high total.
The low total and the high total, but I think the most important variable is that they opened at 3 or 3.5. They opened at the strong number of 3 or 3.5, rather than opening below that number and steaming up to the 3. Now, I know we've seen some fluctuations in the market where it opened at 3, 3.5, it dipped below the 3, and then it got back to 3, 3.5 at come game time. So maybe you could look at it that way. But
do you have this opening up at 3 anywhere?
Not this one.
No. Okay. Just
generally. Right. Okay. Exactly. This one didn't open at 3, which is what I was trying. Oh,
sorry, I'm confused. Okay.
Right. Like the Eagles and the Ravens opening at 3, 3.5.
Yeah.
Is the strong is implies more strength than the open. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, no, and this didn't open at the market wasn't initially saying this is a strong road favorite because it was under the 3.
Right. Like the algorithm came out with whatever manual adjustment they do before they post the lines at Pinnacle. At the book. Yeah, right. They came out with a much stronger outlook.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and it's interesting the total too. So I'm all ears, trying to soak up as much of your knowledge and the database as possible. So interesting. I wasn't immediately interested in the Colts. Your breakdown of the Colts welcoming the short passes and Drake May succeeding enormously on them is fascinating. I'm gonna have to sit with it more because Drake was 22 of 37 against the Fish, but we've seen him go 40 plus 50 up to 50 passes in games when he's rolling here. Ramondre Stevenson also did absolutely nothing. Interesting. Very, very interesting. And then on the total, at this point, are you close to anything on this one? Or you've moved on the Patriots? Do we make that official? And then what about the total?
Yeah, we can make it official if we can get 3s. If not, I would want to wait for a 3. But I'm seeing a 3 -115 right now at Bet Rivers. Yeah, so I'll take that. I mean, I have a small bet on it, but I did bet it. And so you can put on my record, I do lean under.
And it's much warmer north, right? If you go down south here, if you go down into Ohio, it's
in the Midwest, it's terrible.
It's freezing, but it's
with the under, right. I struggle with the under a little bit. What I want to know is, are the Patriots going to keep the explosive 60-yard bombs? Are they going to be able to limit that? That's what I really want to look into. But I do have a lot of trends suggesting under as well.
Okay, and let me just grab if I can beat that +3 very quickly, and then we'll move on. I can get you a +3 at -111.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, so Troy on the Patriots +3 -111. All right, interesting. Nothing for me here. Very, very, very fascinating football game. I can't wait to spend. I'm really excited that we have the Cappers contest show on a Wednesday this week. I think hammering all these games once again is going to be great. We move on. 1 p.m. Eastern. Seattle Seahawks 6-5, 3-1 on the road. The New York Jets 3-8, 2-3 at home. We're at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and it's cold. 35 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy. 7-mile-per-hour winds. Let's get into the line history here for this one. We have the New York Jets right now. 2s and 2.5s. I'm going to show you what the lines on the +1. The Jets +1 opened up at -108, and it's now +106. So we've had here 14-cent move away from the Jets, a 15-cent move towards the Seahawks. Maybe we'll get a better idea if we just go to the money line. So I'm going to do that. We're going to go over to the money line here for the Seattle Seahawks New York Jets spot. Right now, the Seahawks are minus 126, and they opened up at minus 109. This went immediately towards the Seahawks. The only thing is that it got up to minus 133, and it's dropped 7 cents of buyback. But overall, we've had 17 cents of movement towards the Seattle Seahawks on the money line and a move to them on the spread as well. We'll go over all of that cash flow here. And then that total again is a 41.5, and it opened up at 42. So but another very crucial note is that this opened up at 42 and it almost immediately went up to 43 before the buyback. And the buyback happened yesterday morning at like 2 in the morning. So we've had a half-point move to the under and a move towards the Seahawks. When we get to the cash flow for this one, we have I went a little too far. For Seahawks Jets, we have on the spread 71% of the tickets, 64% of cash on the Seahawks. On the money line, 87% of the tickets and 88% of cash on the Seahawks. And on the total, 78% of tickets and 68% cash on the Seattle Seahawks. It was a pretty fascinating deep dive into the Seahawks, into what McDonald did in, Rizzi and the Saints. McDonald, there was a bunch of coaches who had bye weeks, and it was just fascinating. I tried not to put too much time into it because there were 16 games I had to cap, but McDonald, we know he's a defensive-minded coach, and he did wonders with this defense. Pumped them up, had them ready to go, and they delivered in a huge, huge way. And now they had them
for real. Yeah. The defense looks absolutely. I'm getting the chills right now because I went back and watched what the Seahawks did. They look for real.
Leonard Williams was an absolute monster. 6 tackles, 3 for a loss, 4 quarterback hurries, 2.5 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, and 1 pass defense. One thing that they said was that playoff start this week. That was the whole thing with McDonald. This is playoff start right now. This is the most important game of your life. He was just, and he was, he's a defensive minded guy. Let's go over some stats for these Seahawks. Remember, it's cold, not that windy, but 35 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 7 miles per hour. Passing offense for the Seahawks, second in the league, 257.2 yards per game. Their rushing offense, 28th at 89.1 yards per game. Their rushing offense, 18th. Their red zone offense, 18th. They score touchdowns 55.6% of the time, and their third down offense, the same deal, 18th at 37.8% conversion rate. Their passing defense is 15th. They allow 214.4 yards per game. Their rush defense is 23rd. They allow 130.5. Their red zone defense, 13th. They allow touchdowns 52.5% of the time, and their third down defense is 17th. They allow conversions 38.4% of the time. But that was not the defense that you saw last week in that big 16-6 home victory over the Cardinals. They'd lost 4 straight at home. Geno went 22 of 31 for 254 yards, touchdown pick. Jackson Smith and the Jigba caught 6 for 77, a touchdown. DK caught 4 for 52, back from injury. And Kenneth Walker continues to struggle on the ground, 16 carries for 41 yards, but at least he caught 4 passes for 52 yards. Seahawks went 7 of 14 on third down, 1 of 2 in the red zone. The defense played its best game, held the Cardinals to 3 of 13 on third and fourth down, and 0 of 2 in the red zone. As a team, the pass rush combined for 5 sacks. And I think it was 9. The number of quarterback hits isn't there for some reason. Kobe Bryant returned that interception 69 yards to the house. Now, guard Anthony Bradford was helped off the field with an ankle injury. McDonald said that it isn't broken, but he will not be in the lineup against the Jets. So it's Christian Haynes who replaced Bradford at right guard following the injury. So just keep that in mind. We'll move on to the New York Jets. These Jets passing offense 18th in the league. They throw for 27.2 yards per game. Rushing offense 30th, 87.2. Red zone offense 23rd, 52.9. Third down offense is 13th. They convert 39.7% of the time. Passing defense second, 174.9 yards they allow a game. And the rush defense 22nd at 130.1. The red zone defense is 17th, 59% of the time. They allow touchdowns, and their third down defense 16th at 38%. They come in off their bye week. They were last seen in that 28-27 home loss to the Colts. Look, I knew Woody Johnson had screwed this all up, and they should have been faded as much as possible. Now, we faded them against the Colts, but I was a little late to the party, and it was a mistake. Ulbrich now 1 of 5 since replacing Salah, and we know he's not going to be the coach next year. And then Joe Douglas was fired last Tuesday. Joe Douglas was fired 5 years. The Jets went 30-64, no winning seasons. Good riddance. Rodgers was 22 of 29 for 184 yards, 2 touchdown passes. Brees looked better at a TD catch, ran for another one, but the offense starts so slowly every week. I mean, should you just fade the Jets first quarter every week? Even off a bye week, are they incapable of putting offense together? It's very, very interesting. New York didn't get a first down until its 6th possession. This is what Rodgers said. He said, and this is the key about this comment here, and the reason why I wanted it here in the show is because I want to compare it to CJ Stroud's comments for the Texans. So just keep that in mind if you're watching right now, that this is the real reason is because I wanted to just show a comparison. But Rodgers said, I mean, it's disappointing. This is what he said after the game. I know I've said that 3 times now, but we've been working really hard trying to figure out what the issues are. It's not just one person. Sometimes it's me. Sometimes it's somebody else. If I had a quarterback say that, I would plan on firing them or cutting them as soon as possible. I do not want them leading my football team. There's a job that you have to take on, a role you have to take on as a quarterback where it's on you. And even if it isn't, you say that it is because you're a leader of men. And I literally, if I could have had my hand reach out and slap him in the face, I would have done it. He has never started a season with this poor of a record either, so it's new to him. He's passed 6.4 yards per pass this year. It's horrific. Now, C.J. Mosley has been playing with his herniated disc in his neck. He's trying to play. Here's a guy, when we're questioning the heart of all the New York Jets, C.J. Mosley's trying so hard to get on the field, even though the doctors are saying you shouldn't. He's trying to play this week. Tyron Smith also is trying to play, but not like C.J. Mosley. C.J. Mosley's missed the last 4 games due to this neck issue. And, we'll have to see tomorrow, but he's trying so hard to be in the lineup. The Jets just can't be trusted under any circumstance. But should the Seahawks be backed after a phenomenal performance out of a bye? And now that Rodgers has the bye week to plan offense, with Devontae, with some of these guys that he should have connections with, do you think that there is a higher upside on the Jets from what we've seen that they've been getting out of the gate so poorly? Take it away, Troy. This is such a fascinating game. Seahawks-Jets.
Well, I'm going to have to be fully transparent out the gate. I've talked about it one time before. I think it was on a live stream too. So I haven't brought it to the Bankroll Blitz audience. I signed a contract with my wife that I can no longer bet the Jets on the season. And I remain true to these contracts because I'm telling you what, you need a little bit of the discipline in some situations. I have a soft spot for this Jets team. I wanted to buy low for basically all season long. But now that they're eliminated from playoff contention, you look at the structure of their roster. They have a veteran quarterback who I doubt really gives a shit about the end of the season, about winning football games. The players are making business decisions all over the field. I mean, look at what Sauce Gardner's doing. He's the worst tackling corner in the NFL. He wants no part of any contact. And I don't blame him, right? I mean, he's a great coverage corner, but is he going to risk his career or, his future trying to make a tackle for a team that's not going anywhere? The defense is continuously given lackluster efforts. I mean, under expectations every single week. There's really nothing to like when it comes to backing this football team at this point in the season. So we're back in the Seahawks, right? And it's like, originally I wanted to slam the brakes. I'm kind of feeling a little bit different now. I've been talking shit about the Seahawks team all season long. Bad quarterback play, red zone turnovers. Geno Smith cannot take what the defense gives him. Bad offensive line play. They can't protect their quarterback. They can't protect the bad, mediocre quarterback. They can't block for the run. They're not generating any line yards. The offensive line is bottom five in run block and bottom 5 in yards per attempt in the NFL. So can the offense exploit the weakness of this Jets defense? I don't know. And I will say that the defensive side of the ball, like you mentioned, and like I chimed in on when you were giving your breakdown, Jim, the last 2 weeks have been way more than impressive. I mean, it's a small sample in divisional games. There's a lot more to uncover, but this looked like a defense that I heard so much about prior to the season starting. So I can start to see this defense coming around. I do think that the Seattle defense is still in buy low territory. You got the Jets with a good pass D, a bad run D, which is a good matchup for Seattle. I just think that the under is probably the best play in this game. I haven't moved on it yet.
I agree the under is, but then we'd have to trust the Jets carrying. And if we have any question of the Jets carrying, then we should probably just move to the Seahawks. Their guns are blazing here, but I always hesitate after a huge victory at home and then traveling across the continent.
Right.
So I get, and Dougie White saying Seattle is hungry. They are, and they've been good on the road all year, 3-1 on the road. But they haven't faced any cold weather situations. And that's off the top of my head. I need to double that. But, we know that Geno Smith excels indoors. I mean, it's been the thing it's come to such fruition of late. At San Francisco, nice weather, 2017 loss. At Atlanta, they dominate. They win 34-14. They opened up the year with that win at New England, and then they barely lose to the Lions to show what kind of team they are. Beat Atlanta. Oh, they beat San Francisco in San Francisco. Apologies, 2017. This is a good road team, but how are they going to play in this freezing cold weather? And then if the Jets don't care, how do we bet the under? If there's any concern that the Jets don't care, how do we bet the under? Is there enough concern that they don't care? Because Rodgers knows. I think Rodgers does care because he's getting lambasted. He wants to show it a bit so that he can decide if he wants to play next year and not get kicked out of the league.
Can we find a team total under on the Jets?
Yeah, that might be the look. But then do you not think that there's any chance of a better looking offense off of the bye? Historically, Rodgers has been good off of the bye.
Yeah. And maybe he's trying to save face. This is a pass game for me, Jim. I'm not going to move on this game. Even the total, where the total is right now, 41.5, 42 is tricky. I'm going to pass right now.
Jared TG says he hesitates to trust the Seahawks D on a consistent basis until the roster talent gets better. Okay.
There's some talent out there, man.
So I can understand why people want the Seahawks after what we've just seen and what we've seen from the Jets. I don't think I get there. The under is very interesting. I'm going to put both here in my notes with question marks, not moving on either of them. And we'll go over this game once again with Jose and the squad and the Cappers contest.
I'm going to do the same, but I'm also going to add the Cardinals to that list.
Okay. All right. God, these spots that I found so fascinating, I don't find myself moving on them, which is okay. It's okay right now. Lots of time. We move on. 1 p.m. Eastern. Tennessee Titans 3-8, 2-4 on the road. Washington Commanders 7-5, 4-2 at home. Northwest Stadium in Landover, Maryland. 36 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 11 miles per hour. It's funny. My cap on the Tennessee Titans, I lose the first 3 bets I make on them this year. So I was higher than I should. Remember, I kept talking about wanting to bet their over win total, but I wasn't going to do it. And they kept losing, and I stopped betting on them. And then I've talked about how much I liked Will Levis watching Mason Rudolph. How I think that was going to help him so much. And we know that this had some really nice pieces on defense, but then L'Jarius Sneed not around. It was very confusing watching the players who were stepping up. And when they did step up, I think the Titans are a bet-on football team now. At the Washington Commanders, 7-5, 4-2 at home. Northwest Stadium in Landover, Maryland. It's cold, 36 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 11 miles per hour. Let's get into the line history for this one. Oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. Let's get into the line history for this Titan spot. This total is at 45. We have a lot of 44.5s on the board. It is basically a 44.5, but this opened up at 43 and it's just climbed. Now it's the under 45s at minus 117, but this opened up at 43 at minus 107. So we've had a real legit move towards the over. On the spread, we have these Tennessee Titans a plus 5.5 at minus 106. That is exactly where they've opened. So there's been no movement here, not 1 cent of movement. When we get to the cash flow, we have 36% of the tickets and 26% of the cash on the Tennessee Titans. You have 77% of tickets and 54% of cash on the over. So public on the over, moving it in that direction. So, oh, wow, Slats. God, I hate that. It's my boy, Vernon Adams. I hate hearing that. But thank you for the info. I don't mean to shoot the messenger, but I hate that. So let's roll into the Titans. Passing offense 30th, 183.7 yards a game. Rushing offense 12th, 118.4. Who'll be backing Vernon Adams up is PJ Walker. That's going to be so much fun to cap, man. Red zone offense is 25th, 50% of the time they cash touchdowns. Their third down offense is 28 to 33.1%. Their passing defense is first in the league. They allow 169.6 yards per game. It's not that they're rated first, but this is just yards, of course. A rush defense, 106.7 yards per game. They allow red zone defense is 25th. They allow touchdown 64.7% of the time, but their third down defense has been excellent all year. Second in the league, 31.6%. They're coming off that big 32-27 victory at Houston. Levis 18-24 for 278 yards, 2 touchdowns and interception. Look, he also lost a fumble. It's very difficult to have money on Will Levis because he's going to lose a fumble at some point every game, and you're going to have to, take a break, go outside so you don't smash something. The offensive line is just doing such a terrible time protecting him. I mean, he was sacked 8 times in that game, and they still won. It was Tennessee's first win of the season in a game that Levis both started and finished. Calvin Ridley caught 5 for 93. Tony Pollard ran 24 times for 119 yards and a touchdown. He always bounces back from those bad games. He also caught 3 passes for 10 yards. They were just 5 of 15 on 3rd and 4th down, only made 1 trip to the red zone. They put up 369 yards and 32 points with 1 trip to the red zone because he's creating big plays. We saw it 2 weeks ago with Akine. We saw it this past week with Chug. The defense held the Texans to just 4.8 yards per carry and 3 of 13 on 3rd down. They held the Texans to 2 of 4 in the red zone. The pass rush was strong, 4 sacks, 6 quarterback hits. Kenneth Murray and Jarvis Brownlee had interceptions. Without L'Jarius Sneed, he isn't coming back. But Amani Hooker was added to the injury list Sunday, so he was sick. So they didn't have L'Jarius Sneed, of course, and they didn't have Amani Hooker. Hooker is going to be back for this one. He's important. Let's talk about the Commanders. Passing offense, 14th, 222.8 yards per game. Rushing offense, 5th, 147.8. Red zone offense, 9th, 58.3%. Third down offense, 8th, 42.2% conversion rate. I'm surprised those numbers are so good because that's not what I see. Their passing defense is 4th. They allow just 189.6 yards per game, but they can be beaten on the ground. They're 29th. They allow 145 yards per game. The red zone defense has been bad all year, 67.6% of the time their opponents score touchdowns, and their third down defense is bad as well. They're 23rd. They allow conversions 41.8% of the time, and they're coming off an extremely disappointing 34-26 loss at home versus the undermanned Cowboys. They allowed 2 kick returns for touchdowns in the final 4 minutes. The teams combined for 31 points in the final 4 minutes. That's the most in the NFL game in over a decade. Jaden Daniels was 25 of 38 for 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Now he had a point to prove. He ran 7 times for 74 yards and a touchdown. We've been talking about that rib injury, and he's trying to show that he's good to go. Austin Eckler concussed on the kickoff return in the final seconds, taken to the hospital for further evaluation. That's another concussion for him. Honestly, I don't think he comes back this year. Maybe if they make the playoffs, and people might be laughing when I say maybe if they make the playoffs, thinking that they were a shoe-in for the playoffs, but this is more of the Commanders team that we were expecting to see at the beginning of the year. Brian Robinson Jr. left with an ankle injury in the first half. He returned and he left again. So I don't think Eckler plays. And what if Robinson Jr. doesn't play? Terry McLaurin had 5 catches for 102 yards and a touchdown. He had an 86-yard TD catch that seemingly tied up the game with 21 seconds left. Then Seibert missed the ensuing extra point. He was broken up about it after the game. This team really cares. And Dan Quinn does that. He's a rah-rah guy, man. He gets you pumped up. Noah Brown caught 6 passes for 71 yards. The offense just 4 of 12 on 3rd down, but 2 of 2 in the red zone. They held the Cowboys to just 2 of 11 on 3rd down, but the pass rush was so quiet again. This is the same pass rush we saw at the beginning of the year, doing nothing. 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits. Andrew Wiley, the right tackle, was concussed. He's in concussion protocol. Their center, Tyler Biadazi, was evaluated for concussion. He's in concussion protocol. Marshawn Lattimore missed his 3rd consecutive game since being acquired at the deadline from the New Orleans Saints. We'll have to see on Wednesday if he starts practicing because he hasn't yet. I'm surprised I'm not already on the Titans. Take it away, Troy. Titans, Commanders.
I mean, I was the captain of deboard the Commander train immediately a few weeks back. And I still think that this team is overpriced. In a smash and grab spot, 10.5-point favorites, the Commanders lose to the Cowboys, despite the Cowboys missing 2 field goals, losing a fumble on their, they lost 2 field goals and a fumble on their first 3 possessions, and the fumble they were driving as well. They only scored 9 points prior to the last 5 minutes of the game. Discount 200 total yards that they accumulated in the last 5 minutes of that game. Like, it was just purely a matter of time. It's before regression kicked in. And defensively, they grade out bottom 15 of the league in every category for PFF. And that's what I see when I watch this team on film. There are 2 problems with fading the Commanders in this spot, though. First of all, it's hard to get a read on this line. Have the bookies adjusted to the Commanders? What does this 5.5 represent? Usually I would take it as a short number, slightly short, right? It's suggesting weakness because it's not at the 6. It's set right below the 6. The Commanders are off a terrible loss. That's also makes it hard to read. And historically, in this price range, the market moving towards the over is very favorable for the home team. So I'm going to slam the brakes on this spot. I don't want to. There's no way I'm going to be on the Commanders in this type of situation. As Titans are pass. But then again, I'm not looking to buy high and sell low in this situation. So I'm a pass.
You nailed it. It's the worst case scenario. Titans coming off a big 32-27 victory against the Texans, feeling great about themselves. The Commanders had 3 different players that were like breaking down in tears over what had happened in the game while they were being interviewed. You nailed it. There's a reason why it hasn't been bet yet. You can't buy the Titans high and you can't sell the Commanders low.
Yep.
Okay, so this is just going to take more time here, but
this is a pass, brother. This is a pass for me. I know for a fact I won't have money on this game.
Yeah. All right. Let's roll on. Next up for us, 1 p.m. Eastern, the aforementioned Houston Texans, 7-5, 3-3 on the road at the Jacksonville Jaguars, 2-9, 2-3 at home. I'm starting to smile because I'm excited to hear your breakdown on this one. Everbank Stadium in Jacksonville, Florida, 59 Fahrenheit. So pretty cold even in Jacksonville this weekend. Mostly sunny, 5-mile-per-hour winds. Let's get into the line history for Texans, Jaguars. Jaguars right now +5. There are 4.5s now out there. This opened up at 6. We've had this 1-point move towards Jacksonville. It's getting juiced as we speak. Let's see. Are there other 4.5s? Not yet. Oh, yes, there are. Yes, there are.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. Okay, 4.5s are on the way. Interesting. Let's get to the cash flow here. The Texans have 41% of the tickets and 97% of the cash. 85% of the tickets and 81% of the cash on the over. Let's roll. We're going to start with the Texans. Passing offense 15th in the league, 21.4 yards per game. The rushing offense 20th, 114.6 yards per game. It was the first no-show by Joe Mixon this year. Red zone offense 19th at 54.8%. Third down offense 22nd at 37%. It's just not a very good offense. Their passing defense is 5th. They allow 192.3 yards per game. Their rush defense 10th. They allow 110.8 yards per game on the ground. But the red zone defense being a massive problem all year. Third last in the league. They allow touchdowns 67.9% of the time. Jacksonville Jaguars Houston Texans third down defense is 10th in the league, though. They only allow conversions 34.8% of the time. And, D'Amico, we think that this you always, when you have a defensive-minded coach, you always sort of think the defense is going to be better than it might actually be statistically, especially a defensive coach that you respect. And, I don't know anyone who doesn't just respect D'Amico Ryans. The Texans come in off an ugly 32-27 loss at home to lowly Titans. Third loss in 4 games. Stroud 20-33 for 247 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Also ran 3 times for 18 yards. Stroud has thrown 5 picks in the last 3 games. He has more interceptions, 9, in the 12 games he's played this season than he had in 15 games as a rookie last year when he only threw 5 interceptions. So I remember I talked about the Aaron Rodgers comment. Saying sometimes it's me, sometimes it's someone else. This is what CJ Stroud said. It's no secret that I haven't been playing well. I've got to be harder on myself. I'm not going to hold my head down. I know I can be a great player, but I've got to make better plays. He didn't talk about anybody else except himself because he's the leader of this football team. And the difference between what he's saying and Aaron Rodgers is just massive. And this kid is in a tough time right now, but he's going to be one hell of a quarterback, and he's going to have one great career. The Texans, now we talked about this in the Cardinals game. The Texans did not have a single rushing first down. Joe Mixon ran 14 times for 22 yards. Nico caught 5 for 92 and a touchdown. Tank Dell caught 3 for 72. Just 3 of 13 on third down, 2 of 4 in the red zone. They only averaged 4.8 yards per play. But the pass rush was dynamic. They tied a franchise record with 8 sacks. But they were allowing big plays from the Titans. But Danielle Hunter, 3 sacks. Will Anderson Jr. returns from his ankle injury. He missed 2 games with that injury, and he gets 2 sacks. The Titans averaged 5.6 yards per play against these guys. And Troy's old teammate at NIU, Jimmy Ward, returned an interception, 65 yards for a touchdown. And then this made me sad. Marley is leading NFL Pub Hub. He's a youth football coach, and the team he coaches is where Jalen Petrie played. And Jalen Petrie went and visited the kids last week before they won their Super Bowl this week. And shout out to Marley. Shout out to Brothers and Bets. He's also the co-host of the Raw Words podcast, with our guy LJ from H-Town. But Petrie is done. Partially ruptured pectoral. They haven't decided whether he's going to get surgery. So they're still working on the evaluation to see how long it will be. But we're multiple weeks, and he could be gone for the season. And he's he's so good. So now we have Eric Murray or MJ Stewart in his role, and that's a big drop. Then Kadar Holman, he left in the fourth quarter with a knee injury. That's a torn ACL, and he's done for the season. So you take Kadar Holman out of this team, then you take Petrie off of this team. And, who cares, honestly, at that point, if CJ Stroud's putting it all on him and showing great character? Because now, is Mixon going to bounce back? I mean, there's so many question marks around this team. Now, we know Nico Collins is a monster and Tate Dell's great. This pass rush is great. Let's talk about these Jaguars. Jaguars passing offense 27th in the league, 189.2. Rushing offense 25th at 101.6. Red zone offense 15th. They score touchdowns 55.9% of the time. They haven't been too bad in that area. Their third down offense is 30th. They only get conversions 31.9% of the time. Worst passing defense amongst yards in the league. They allow 278.3 yards per game through the air. They're now worse than the Ravens. Rush defense 26th. They allow 135.5 yards per game. This defense is horrific. Red zone defense 26th, 65.1% of the time the opposition scoring touchdowns. Their third down defense 29th. They allow conversions 44.8% of the time. Jaguars coming off their bye week. They were last seen in that horrific 52-6 loss at Detroit. 46 points broke the previous record of 44 margin, 46-point margin of defeat, broke the previous record of 44. That was in 1995 when the Jaguars were a first-year expansion team. There's no excuse for them now. There was an excuse for them then. Also, it set the record for the Lions' biggest margin of victory. It also set the first downs record for the Lions at 38, the most yards gained at 645. They outgained the Jaguars by 475. That's the third largest margin in league history. And it could have been worse because remember, Campbell brought in Hendon Hooker. So it's the record for margin of victory. This is the Lions' 95th season in the NFL. It's just one of the worst losses in the history of the sport. Lawrence missed the past two games. Missed losses to Minnesota and Detroit, sprained left shoulder. He's feeling better. He's throwing. Tomorrow is a full practice with the first team rep, so he's expected to be in. Mac Jones struggled in two games, 31-51 for 249 yards, no touchdowns, 3 picks, sacked 4 times. And other than Trevor Lawrence, this is a pretty healthy group because Bigsby is going to return. He injured his ankle in the 12-7 loss to the Vikings. Travis Etienne's been a major disappointment, just a huge disappointment. And nobody thought this defense would be historically bad. Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen have combined for 12.5 sacks. It's the secondary that is absolutely horrific. But they have Trevor Lawrence back at quarterback. Khan didn't fire Peterson. Take it away, Troy. Texans, Jaguars.
Well, I think you did a pretty darn good job laying this out. I mean, at this point in the season, the Jags have nothing else to play for except for pride. And based on the comments we're hearing out of the locker room, I expect the pride factor to be in play. We expect changes based on what Doug Peterson said coming with the offensive and defensive side of the football. I expect a healthy Lawrence and a much healthier football team out of the bye week than they were prior to the bye week. And he knows what he's up against with this Texans defense. I mean, this is a divisional matchup. And the Texans, I told you that for weeks at this point that this team's on my fade list. I should have faded them last week. And I'm not missing another chance to do so. The offensive scheme is flawed. I'm not going to put this all on one man's shoulders, but there's also a huge problem. So you have a flawed scheme because the route tree that they run just takes way too long to develop. I continue to say this. I think it needs to be said. The offensive line is bottom 10 in the NFL, easily bottom 10. I would put them with how they're on their heels every fucking snap. Anytime Stroud's dropping back the pass, which he has to do a lot because they can't run the football. They've also been bad on the road this year. Their only covers against New England and Dallas. Dallas had Cooper Rush starting at quarterback in New England. It was the first game Drake May was at quarterback. That was when they made the switch from Brissett to Drake. So And this team has a bye week on deck. They're a little bit beat up. I know it seems like a traditional bounce back spot, but I completely disagree. And the real variable, Jimmy, I texted you about this earlier. The real variable that locks me into fading the Texans this week is the market. And you know I love this line movement because I'm just going to give you one side. It's going to be the underdog. When you got a home dog of 6 or more and close below 6, but this trend goes both ways. Whether the dog is at home or on the road, this is a very strong trend. So you got a home dog opening at 6 or bigger and closing below 6. We know that's going to happen in this situation. The home team's 11-6 ATS, 9-8 straight up. Hey, that's pretty damn cool. You can get a 9-8 straight up type of situation, a plus 190, and you're over 50%. That's pretty good, right? But the market is also moving to the over in that sample, which we're seeing here. It's already moved up a full point. I think it actually moves up a little bit more, up to the 44. Well, if the market's also moving to the over in that sample, 7-0 ATS, 6-1 straight up, going over their team total in every game of the sample. The Jags have only been a dog at home once the past 3 seasons. They opened at 4.5. They closed at 3. They won that game 24-0. Not saying it's going to happen in this spot, but I am on the Jaguars, and I have just moved on the money line because there's a lot of 4.5s popping back in the market. It's too far gone. We're not getting to the 6. My rule is if we open above 6, close below 6, I'm on the money line. It's paid off. So I'm on this game 3 ways. I've tripled up. I got Jags plus 5, minus 110. Jags team total over 19.5 at minus 115. And I got Jags plus 190 on the money line.
Wow. This reminds me of another team that desperately needed the bye. We're coming off of what some people thought was a clear bounce back spot after losing to the Saints. They went into Denver and lost 38-6 because they needed a bye so badly. I wonder if this is a similar spot. Now, it's not quite going to be as extreme or anything like that. I'm with you. The first thing that I got a little bit concerned about was the team total as well. And if I'm having that concern, that means I think that this game could go under. And I probably shouldn't feel that way here, with a Houston defense that's beaten up and without Petrie, and this line has moved a half point to the over. Do you have any feel on this full game total? Or if you're on the Jaguars team total over, are you leaning towards an over in this football game?
Yeah, I would definitely lean towards the over in the football game, but I think we've seen Trevor Lawrence operate against this defense in the past, and even in the game where he went under the 19.5, this number that we're looking at here, there was so many opportunities to score, so many 4th down conversions missed. There were so many things that went wrong. I would much rather be on one side on the team total in this matchup because I feel so strongly about the side, because mostly predicated on the market. The market's telling us a story.
I'm going to join you on this one. This is the another ugly duckling that
I love it.
I love it. Join you on it. Jermaine says Jags lost 5 straight week 13 games. They're 3-7 last 10 years. Points are given up last 5 weeks. Or 5 week 13s, 34, 37, 40, 27, 28. Jermaine, if you have a second, I'd be very curious if any of those happened after a bye week. If you could give me that info. Because this is a time historically where teams are beaten up and they need to regroup. I'd be if you could, and if that's going to be a pain to find out, possibly Jermaine too. But respect, Jermaine. I love that info. I'm going to join you, Troy, on the Jaguars, and I can hear the comments coming in immediately. But the Lions fans are a little more proud of their team than the Texans fans, but Texans fans too. We roll on. Those are all the 1 p.m. games. Let's move on to 4:05 p.m. Eastern. LA Rams 5-6, 2-3 on the road at the New Orleans Saints, 4-7, 3-3 at home. Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. Let's get into the line history here in this one. This was another game. I wish I had more time to jump into Rizzy because he's doing some really cool stuff. Rizzy's never been a head coach in his entire career at any level. And it's pretty exciting to watch him handle this and see the bounce. This total opened up at 47.5. It's now at 49. It's slightly juiced to the over. Oh, sorry. Let me say that again. Let me just do this again. Sorry. It's opened up at 47.5. It's now at 49. Slightly juiced to the under. Sorry about that. So slightly juiced to the under, but 1.5 up. Let's get into the point spread here for this one. On the spread, we have the Saints +3 at -115. They opened up at +2. So this line is moving towards the Rams. And I can't wait to hear the breakdown from Troy, as this, again, didn't open up over that 3 or 3.5. So the books weren't saying that this road favorite, should be truly worried or concerned about. Now the line's moving, so we'll hear his breakdown there. Let's get into the cash flow. We have 36% of the tickets on the Saints, 23% of the cash. So 64 and 77 on the Rams. 73% of the tickets, 68% cash on the over. Start with the Rams. Passing offense, 9th, 236.7 yards per game. Their rushing offense, 26th, 95.1 yards per game. They've struggled a bit. Dougie Wise says Rams -3 is free money. Interesting. Jim W. Putt says Rams are the team that has continually let down gamblers. No way could play them here. Don't deserve to be favored. Interesting. So, and Jim W. Putt says Kamara equals Barkley. Run all day on this Rams. The red zone offense for the Rams being a problem all year, 25th, 50%. Their third down offense is the second worst in the league. They only convert 31.7% of the time. Look at those numbers for the Rams. If you put a line through their passing offense and only look at their rushing offense, the red zone offense, and third down offense, it's a bottom 5 offense in the league, which I'm shocked to be saying. Pass defense, 19th. They allow 217.7 yards per game. The rush defense, 28th. They allow 144.3. The red zone defense is 9th. They allow touchdowns 48.8% of the time, and their third down defense, 19th. They allow conversions 40.5% of the time. The Rams come in off an ugly 37-20 loss at home to the Eagles on Sunday night. They were outgained 481 to 290. Stafford was 24-36 for 243 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks. Puka caught 9 for 117. Cooper caught 8 for 16, a touchdown. And Kyron ran 16 times for 72 yards and a touchdown. He also fumbled twice, losing one of them. But the offense couldn't do anything at key points. I've never written this down all year. 0 for 8 on third down. They didn't convert one third down all game. I have not written that down all year. The defense looked awful. Eagles put up 314 yards rushing. Saquon set the Eagles franchise record with 255 yards rushing, the 9th most yards rushing in a game in NFL history. We'll talk more about that when we talk about the Eagles. Eagles went 9-15 on third down. They did hold them to 2 of 5 in the red zone, so it wasn't so horrible. Pass rush was nowhere to be found. Finished with 1 sack and 2 quarterback hits. Rob Havenstein missed his 3rd straight game, so Warren McClendon was in, and he got destroyed in pass protection. Let's talk about these Saints. Passing offense, 17th, 216.6. Rushing offense, 9th, 130.7 yards per game. The red zone offense, 7th, 61.8%. Their third down offense, 14th at 39%. Their pass defense has been a problem. They're third worst in the league, allowing 256.6 yards per game. Their rush defense, 25th at 134.2. But their red zone defense has been strong all year. They're 6th in the league, 47.1. Their third down defense, 15th at 36.4. They come in off their bye week. They were last seen in their second straight victory, and it was a very easy 35-14 home win over the Browns. So they had been on a 7-game losing streak when they brought in Rizzi, the special teams coordinator. Since then, they've won 2 straight. Taysom Hill had 248 combined yards. They're using Taysom Hill as the weapon that he is. He ran for 138. He caught for 50. He threw for 18, and he had 42 yards kick returning. This guy's a monster, and he's healthy now, and they needed the bye. After gaining 214 yards on the ground as a team against Cleveland, they've now averaged 156 yards rushing during their past 4 games. Their lowest output was 96 against Atlanta. Alontae Taylor now is a talented DB, but no Paulson Adebo due to injury. They traded Marshawn Lattimore. So now Alontae Taylor has having to defend the number 1, and it's very, very difficult. And he got burnt by Jerry Jeudy on that 89-yard catch and run. He's been burnt a couple times. We talk about Taysom Hill being the secret sort of to this Saints team. You could also say it's Eric McCoy. When he got hurt in the 3rd game of the year on the first drive, their offense fell apart. The center is back. He played for the first time in 8 weeks. He had surgery to repair the groin injury in week 3. And they pulled him in the second half. It wasn't that big of a deal. It was the groin, but he was riding the stationary bike. He said that they said if it was a playoff game, if it was an important game, he would have come back in. So he's fine. And don't look now. And I know the Buccaneers are the team, but the Saints are 2 games back of the Falcons with 6 to play. The Saints are coming in guns a blazing. Now you could say the same thing about the Rams. 5-6. They're a game out of first, in the NFC West. Take it away, Troy. Rams, Saints, Caesar Superdome. Are you muted, my man?
My bad. I've been fading both these teams over the past few weeks. The Rams with massive success, and the Saints just cannot seem to get this team right. And based on the market, it's very hard to pick a side. You called it out, Jim. Where does this one fall? Because now you have the open short of the 3, and you have a high total. And honestly, this plays out very 50-50, very, very coin flip on the ATS and a very tight spread, a very sharp market. So I expect this to be a very efficient market, very close to the number. The Rams are 5-1 ATS on the road as favorites over the last three seasons, but the offensive line, they're not contending for a playoff spot no more. The offensive line is in shambles. Stafford behind this offensive line is vastly underperforming. So it's hard to get behind the Rams. And then you got the Saints at home coming off 2 wins as dogs. Now they had the bye week. They're also playing for nothing. They're dogs again, probably the worst defense in the NFL. And I always want to fade them because I always expect Derek Carr to be under pressure. Somehow, whenever I fade him, he never is, which is probably signs of a good offensive scheme. And it's definitely a signs of Eric McCoy, who's grading out as the best center in the NFL. I want to say X's and O's why I lean towards the Rams. I don't think Stafford is the type of guy that has a lot of quit in him. I think he has a lot of pride. He's not going to lay down. He's going to continue to fight. If he has a 10% chance, he's going to take it to the bank. Take it as long as he can. And I would expect the Rams receivers to get open versus man coverage, which they're just continuing to play. And then you got the Saints off 2 wins and a bye week with nothing to play for. For now, it's a pass. I probably won't. I'm not going to bet this game. This is a pass.
If we're in the sports book, I pull out $1,000 and I say, go to window right now on the side, on the spread. You keep half the profits. What do?
I'm taking the Rams.
Interesting. It's the problem where you're
people talking about the Rams against power run offenses. And the Saints, they want to run the ball. They want to run outside zone. But the Rams' run defense is good. Yeah, when they run into the face of a team like the Eagles or the Lions with their offensive line, it's going to be a different story.
Jim W. Putt says he would be on the under in this situation. I mean, it's just, do you really want to buy the Saints high because it's a real high buy, or sell the Rams low? It's a pretty uncomfortable situation. The market also indicating more and more strength for the Rams despite getting destroyed by the Eagles. It just doesn't set up right. As much as I want to back Rizzy is bringing props to all of his meetings. I don't know if you've heard about that. He's the carrot top of the coaching world, bringing all of the hard hats and the working boots, because he wants a blue collar tough football team. You check in for work and you grind, and I've really liked the guy. I've just started really liking the guy, and I think that's getting in the way of everything too. What do you think of Jim W. Putt saying he would put that 1,000 on the under in this one? We've had the slight move to the over, 73% ticket, 68% cash on the over. What do you think of the total?
Typically with short home dogs, the market is very efficient. So if it's leaning to the over, I would also want to be on the over. But this total is high, man. This is too high of a total for me to want to go over in the situation. But it would be on the over for sure.
Jim Dewigger says over as well. And Jared TG had some really interesting comments. Where was it here? He says, Rams have been a cash cow for me for a while. He said, I've had a good read on them for a couple of years. This year, they just aren't doing it for me. Stafford's regressing naturally and can't play with this line. Okay. Nothing for us here.
Pipe layer, I may join you on that. Puka over on yards. I like him. I like that a lot. Especially he's going to be matched up on the outside corners. Oh, that's good. That's a good look.
Well, Alontae Taylor is going to have a tough day, man. I mean, he's a talented kid, but you're just putting too much pressure on him without a Debo and no Lattimore. And
he's a slot guy too, isn't he?
They've had to move him around after Debo got hurt. So
you're right.
I don't know if he's got like a.
He's going to be on the outside, I think.
I think so too right now. I think he's on the outside, but let's roll on to the next spot on the board. Finally, a game that we attacked with great vigor. This is big for me. And I had a chance to make it a little less big. And it was funny, your comment it sat with me for a little while, and I hadn't moved yet, and I still moved. So I've got 3 bets, 3 units, 300 a pop. I have $900 on this game. That's a lot for me. That's a lot for my bankroll. That's a lot. I have a lot invested in this football game, and I can't wait to watch it alone in the dark with a bottle of booze. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Carolina Panthers. We're at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. Buccaneers 5-6, 3-2 on the road. Panthers 3-8, 2-4 at home. 45 Fahrenheit, cloudy, 8 miles per hour. I'm on the Panthers +6 at -110. I'm on the Panthers team total over 19.5 at -120. And I'm on the full game over 46.5 at -110. Let's get into the line history here in this one. This is also a spot that Troy brought to my attention, throughout the day. We were messaging back and forth, and I just became more and more bullish. We just cashed with the Panthers. I watched the game very closely. You guys know my mom's shrink, and I just knew that the Red Rifle getting in that car accident and giving Bryce Young an opportunity to get his career back, to get his life back, that he wasn't going to let this one slip. And 3 straight impressive performances by the Panthers. They've been getting us paid. I hope they've been getting you paid. And they're going to get us paid again. Let's get into the line history here for this one. We have the Panthers at +5.5. Now, you can get a 6, but there's 5.5. The 5.5 at first, when it first moved to 5.5, so this line came out 8:13 p.m. at 6. At 8:14 p.m. a minute later was a 5.5 at a pick'em. So gamblers that the books respected moved on it immediately on the Panthers. That +5.5 got to a plus money spot. The +5.5 was +103, so it's basically back to a 6 at 3:24 p.m. And then there was another 5-cent move to the Panthers +5.5 -102. So we've had to move towards the Panthers. And this was a must bet right away. And I've had a much higher ROI in the bets where I come to the show and I'm like, we had to bet this as soon as possible. This total is at 46.5. It's -110 to the over. It opened up -104 to the over. Only 6 cents of movement to the over. And I like this over quite a bit. Let's get to the cash flow here for this one. We have, let me move over here. We have 91% of the tickets on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and 78% of the cash. So it's 9 and 22 on the Panthers. Wheelhouse. 77% of the tickets and 96% cash on the over. It's a very public spot on the over, and I went with it. D. Jenkins got the over 46. Excellent job. Over 46. Excellent job. So let's talk about the spot here. We're going to start with the Buccaneers. Passing offense 7th, 241.5 yards per game. You guys know I have a big bet. Well, big for me. A $500 bet on the over 7.5 wins for the Buccaneers. Rushing offense 10th at 128.1. Their offense has been pretty good this year. Red zone offense 2nd, 69.8% of the time they're scoring touchdowns. Third down offense 2nd. I mean, it's been better than pretty good. It's been great. Third down offense 2nd at 50.4% of the time. Their passing defense has been a problem. 29th in the league, allowing 255.5 yards per game. Their rush defense 16th. They allow 120.7 yards per game on the ground. Their red zone defense 16th. They allow touchdowns 56.1% of the time. Their third down defense has been poor all year. Their defense has been much worse than I thought it was going to be this year. Third down defense 43.5% of the time. Buccaneers snapped their 4-game losing streak with an easy 37 victory over the Tommy Cutlet-led New York Giants. Tampa Bay scored on 5 of its first 6 possessions. We're up 30-0. Outgained the Giants 450 to 245. I never like backing teams after destroying a horrific team. You know, it doesn't appeal to me, and this doesn't appeal to me here. Baker Mayfield was very good, 24-30 for 294 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. He also ran 4 times for 29 yards and a touchdown. He did fumble twice, and he's had a problem with that. He lost one of them. Mike Evans returned from injury, catch 5 passes for 68 yards. Bucky Irving ran 12 times for 87 yards, touchdown, caught 6 for 64. Shout out to you, Troy, for being on Bucky Irving, over 60 rush yards. Offense put up 7.3 yards per play, went 4 or 5 in the red zone. The defense held the Giants to just 4.4 yards per play and 1 of 3 in the red zone. The pass rush was strong throughout. 4 sacks, 9 quarterback hits. Tristan Wirfs didn't play with the knee injury. He sprained his MCL in week 10. He was initially listed as questionable. Practice in a limited capacity, was downgraded to doubtful on Saturday. So they expect him to play here. But they did lose outside linebacker Joe Tryon-Shoyinka to an ankle injury in the second quarter, and safety Jordan Whitehead to a pec injury in the fourth quarter. Both are listed as questionable for this week. Tampa Bay now 5-6, 1 game back of Atlanta in the NFC South. These Panthers have been cashing for me. Passing offense, 31st in the league, 177.8 yards per game. Rushing offense, 24th, 107.7. Red zone offense, 10th at 58.1%. Their third down offense, that's pretty good in the red zone. Third down offense, 27th. They convert 33.8% of the time. Now, their defense has been a problem, but I kept telling you guys over and over again that DJ Wanham was a huge, huge part of this defense, and he was going to help enormously, not just on the field, but in the locker room. Their passing defense, 24th, 226.7 yards per game. Their rush defense, 32nd, worst in the league. They allow 160.5 yards per game. Red zone defense, 23rd. They allow touchdown 63.8% of the time. And their third down defense is the worst in the league. They allow conversions 49.3% of the time. They're coming up their third straight impressive performance. They had their 2-game winning streak snapped by the Chiefs, losing 30-27. Bryce Young, 21 of 35 for 263 yards, touchdown, no picks. Also ran 3 times for 20 yards. And it means something to me. It means something to me because he got lambasted. He got destroyed. Everybody hammering him. He was the lowest guy in the world. He must have had some real tough nights, questioning everything, knowing that CJ Stroud was getting all the love and that he shouldn't have been picked number 1 overall. And he got lucky. It wasn't a football situation. It was an off-field situation that got him the chance to start again, and he didn't let himself down or his family down. Canales said, Bryce is certainly making the most of his opportunities. He's making a statement to all of us, showing us he can make plays in critical areas. He did a great job extending today. This is what Young said. For me, I just want to focus on what I can control. Regardless, I always have the same mindset and preparation, wanting to be better throughout the week. I am definitely grateful for confidence. I'm so proud of this guy, man. I'm so proud of this guy. It's not just my bankroll getting fattened by him. It's that he stepped up when he was the only one who believed in himself. David Moore caught 6 for 81, a touchdown. Thielen caught 3 for 57. Chuba Hubbard ran 16 times for 58 yards, a touchdown. It's too bad that Jatavian Sanders was hurt. He's evaluated for a neck injury. It was very scary. He landed awkwardly. He's okay. He avoided a serious injury. He was back in the facility on Monday. That is the sign. He was back in the facility on Monday. They're all back in the facility on Monday. They like coming to the stadium for the first time in 2 years, 3 years? How long has it been since a Carolina Panther wanted to come to work? They want to come to work now. The offense went 7 of 15 on 3rd and 4th down, but just 2 of 6 in the red zone. Look, they struggled to stop the Chiefs on 3rd down. Chiefs went 9 of 13 on 3rd and 4th, but they did hold that dangerous Chiefs offense to just 2 of 5 in the red zone. And the pass rush with DJ Wanham out there, 5 sacks, 8 quarterback hits. Take it away, Troy. I'm on the Panthers +6. Panthers team total over 19.5. Carolina, Tampa Bay over 46.5. And Troy made a great point. He said, he's like, you should really just go with the Panthers +6 and the Panthers team total over 19.5. He said that Carolina, Tampa Bay over 46.5 is kind of a hedge. And I like the sound of it. That didn't detract me. I was like, yeah, I kind of like it. If I'm going to invest heavy on it, I wouldn't mind knowing that if the Bucs take complete control of this game, because their offense can be dangerous, and they're only 1 game back, that then the full game over will hit. So I kind of liked it instead of it being a detraction. Take it away for us, Troy. Buccaneers, Panthers, Bank of America Stadium, most important game of the week for me.
It's funny. It's the most important game for me, too. I'm heavily invested in this spot. It's funny. I sent you that, and I sat with it for a little bit. I'm like, hey, that actually doesn't sound too bad. When you already got $1,000 on one side between the team total and the spread, and you're probably going to be on the money line as too. Like, it might be a good idea to maybe get a little side hedge on the over, because the Bucs, they smashed this squabbling Giants team. It's very satisfying. Like, I love watching Baker Mayfield play. The pure heart, the hustle that this guy brings to the table is amazing. They held the Giants to just 7 points of offense, basically 3/4 of shutout football, only allowing 100 yards. Now, that's Tommy DeVito. It was extremely impressive, but let's not forget that that's an opponent that's clearly in the tank. They want to lose football games, as suggested by the starting QB of the team. It's the worst team in the NFL. The Giants are the worst team in the NFL in its current state, and it's not even just the state they're in right now, but compared to any team in their worst state, this is the worst of the worst, the bottom of the barrel. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. There's no doubt about that. And we're not talking about the Giants in this situation. We're not talking about the worst team in the NFL. We're talking about the Carolina Panthers, who've covered 3 straight games, covered against the Chiefs, took them down to the wire, could have cashed on the money line. Bryce Young with his 3 best PFF grades of the season. He's a 3-to-1 touchdown ratio in this stretch. The offensive line has been incredible. Definitely one of the strongest suits of this team is their offensive line. And on the back of that offensive line, they have a top 10 rushing attack. You look at yards per carry, you look at run block, win rate. And then you got Canales, who I think is the right guy to right the ship and to continue to move this thing in the right direction. Everything we see out of Jimmy, you touched on it. Everything we see out of the locker room, these guys want to be there. They're excited about playing football for the first time in how long? I expect the Panthers to have success offensively, especially particularly on the ground. The Bucs are 25th in opponent yards per carry. They grade out 27th against the run per PFF. I trust this offensive line is going to be able to move the line a little bit, stay away from Vita Vea. And we know the Bucs have holes in general, not just against the run. 24th in points per game. I mean, you could just go down the list. Yards per game, points per game, third down D. This is a vulnerable defense. I'm going to trust Bryce Young, Canales on the backs of this rushing attack. Get the job done. Keep this game close. So I got a pretty big bet on the Panthers +6. I do think we're going to close below 5.5. And if we close below the 6, hopefully we close 4.5. To be honest, I'll be very excited about backing the money line. But right now, for me, it's just Panthers +6 and it's Panthers team total over 19.5. And I found a -120.
Yeah, so did I. The book that I've talked about the line movement on for years, they wouldn't offer it. They offered the 20.5. And that made me really want to bet it right away at the -120 at 19.5. What did you get on the?
That's a key number. I mean, you look at this sample. We just talked about this same exact market. I can't believe I didn't even touch on this. It's because I just read it off in the Jaguars game. Home teams open 6 or more, close below 6, 11-6 ATS. The total's moving to the over, which it looks like it's about to move from 46.5 up to 47. 7-0 ATS. 7-0 ATS, 6-1 straight up. Going over their team total in every game in that sample.
And did you get -110 on the +6?
I did.
Yeah, same here. All right. Well, this is a big one, man. That's a big one.
It's a big one.
It's a big one. It's a big one. All right. We roll on, but both Troy and I.
It's an easy spot to live with the result. It's an easy spot to live with the result. So regardless of what happens, I stand by it.
I love the Caps so much. Anytime I can start having the X's and O's that you drop back with the psychological factors that I'm in love with, just so much fun. And if we can come back here, next Tuesday and be full of cash, it's just this is why this is so much fun. And you guys in the chat supporting the show also help make it so much fun. We thank you guys for supporting our show. This is our biggest investment.
Also, Bryce Young is grades out better against the blitz than when he's not blitz. So take that for what it's worth. We know the Bucs are bringing the heat.
As a fan of sports, I really like seeing Bryce Young step up after all of this. I really love that.
Super impressive. Super impressive.
Let's move on to the big one. 4:25 p.m. Eastern, the Philadelphia Eagles 9-2, 5-1 on the road. The Baltimore Ravens 8-4, 4-1 at home. We're at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland. It's cold, 36 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 8-mile-per-hour winds. Let's get into the line history here. This total is at 51. 51. It's -109 to the under. I can't believe the line detail has been working all day and now it's not. Okay, so let me try this one more time. And okay, got a problem with the line detail. I'll fix it. I'll switch books here. But let me just see if I can get not books, but sites. Okay, yeah, this has gone down. God, this is my pet peeve. So, if you could drop the line movement here in this one, it's so imperative to know it. And I'll see if I can get it up. I'll get up on a different.
Yeah. Right now, I'm probably getting the same thing you are, but I know that this line had opened up at 2.5. It's up to 3.5 at the book I use, and the total has been relatively flat where it currently sits at 51. There's not been a lot of movement on the total, but we have seen a big move towards the Ravens as it relates to the side. You need some cash flow metrics as well, Jim.
I got those. So what is the line done then on the spread?
It's moved from 2.5 to 3.5. It was a juice 2.5 in the first place, and now it's a very juice towards the Eagles 3.5 plus 110 3.5 for the Ravens.
Wow. Okay. I'll have this back set up here. I can't believe after 3 hours in, it finally bites the dust on me. So
yep, they opened 2.5 minus 127 up to 3.5 right now plus 110. So we're looking like we're closing at 3.
Wow. Yes, I've got it up now. Okay, I'm back. So yes, the 2.5 with the Ravens opening up minus 127. The first move was towards the Eagles. That it dropped, the juice dropped, but then it started moving towards the Ravens, and it just didn't stop really. There isn't a huge difference though between like a minus 2.5 minus 127 and a minus 3.5 at plus 110. I mean, it's very similar. Let's get into the cash flow then for this one. We have 66% of tickets, 63% of cash on the Eagles, 62% tickets, 68% cash on the over. We're going to start with the Eagles. Remember, it's cold. 36 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 8 miles per hour. Passing offense, 25th, 195.7 yards per game. This rushing offense, especially after Barkley's exploits last out against the Rams, is now averaging 193.4 yards per game. The best in the league. Red zone offense 16th, 55.8%. Third down offense 7th, 43.1%. Pass defense 3rd. They only allow 175.5 through the air, and the rush defense 7th, 99.2 yards per game on the ground. Red zone defense 5th. They allow touchdowns 46.9% of the time, and their third down defense is 3rd. Their third down defense is 3rd this year. They allow conversions 32.6% of the time. In the last 3 games, the Philadelphia Eagles are allowing conversions on third down 17% of the time. By far the best in the league. Eagles coming off their 7th straight victory, a dominant 37-20 win at the Rams. I got him at 6-1 to win the conference. I told you guys all about it because I told you the week before they were 9-1 and I was going to bet it, and I didn't. But then I got in at 6-1. But I don't have Lions futures on conference and Super Bowl, and we know the Lions are the class of the league right now. But this Eagles team is very dangerous, and good God, would I love to see the Lions and the Eagles go up against each other to get to the Super Bowl. The Eagles outgained the Rams 41-290. Saquon, franchise record, 255 yards rushing, 9th most yards rushing in a game in NFL history, 302 total yards, 12th player in NFL history to top 300, the first Eagles player to do it. He was the first NFL player with 2 70-yard touchdown runs in the game since Maurice Jones-Drew in 2009, leads the league with the 1,392 yards rushing, leads the league with 700-yard rushing games. Jalen Hurts was 15-22 for 179 yards, touchdown, no picks. He also ran 12 times for 39 yards. A.J. Brown caught 6 for 109 and a touchdown. Eagles were 9-15 on third down. The score would have been worse if the Eagles didn't go 2-5 in the red zone. The defense was strong throughout, held the Rams to 0-8 on third down, 2-4 in the red zone. Pass rush was monstrous, 5 sacks, 11 quarterback hits. Now, Darius Slay is in concussion protocol. He left in the second half. Devonta Smith, hamstring injury. That's only the 3rd time he's missed a game in his 4-year career. We'll have to see on tomorrow's Wednesday report if he's good to go. Defensive end Brandon Graham, 15-year vet, he said after the game he's done for the season with torn triceps. That makes it hurts in various ways. They love him in the locker room, but another thing is that Bryce Huff underwent surgery on his wrist, so he's going to be out 4 games. He's on IR. So, it's they rotate the edge rushers, but he's they're 2 guys of your depth pieces are gone. Talk about the Ravens. Passing offense 3rd, 246.5 yards per game. Rushing offense 2nd, 180.2 yards per game. Red zone offense 1st. They get touchdowns 78.7% of the time. Kyle Lamar Jackson's phenomenal down there. Third down offense 3rd. They convert 47% of the time. Their pass defense is 31st. No longer 32nd, but they allowed 277.7 yards per game through the air. Rush defense second, 77.9. Now, they allowed 277.7 yards a game through the air, but didn't see. I mean, and Puka and Cooper, Puka went for over 100 yards, but 0 for 8 on third down against them. Rush defense second. They allow 77.9 yards per game on the ground. Red zone defense 15th to 55.3%. Their third down defense is 25th, 43.6% of the time you can convert. And they're coming in off a short week. They defeated the Chargers 30-23 in LA on Monday night. Lamar 16-22 for 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. 7-2 in Monday night games. 6-1 on the road. Now, this is just for us to always remember. Right now on Monday nights, he has 124.3 passer rating, 22 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Something we should, keep close to us for when he returns on Monday Night Football. Derrick Henry ran 24 times for 140 yards. As a team, Ravens ran 37 times for 212 yards, 2 touchdowns. Zay caught 5 for 62. The offense put up 6.5 yards per play, 11 of 18 on third and fourth down, 2 for 2 in the red zone. And the defense was strong despite playing without Roquan Smith, who's dealing with a hamstring injury. He leads the Ravens with 110 tackles. Pass rush finished with 4 sacks, 7 quarterback hits. They held the Chargers to just 4.8 yards per play. Held the Chargers to 7-16 on third down. Look, I want the Eagles. I truly feel like this has been a gauntlet that the Rams have been on in Pittsburgh, then Monday night in LA, now a short week against the Eagles. Can you help me get there, Troy? Take it away. Eagles, Ravens, M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland.
I'm really, really, really waffling on this spot here. I back both these two teams as pretty heavily as road favorites of around 3 last week. I know I've been riding the Eagles until further notice, and wanted to consider this breakdown my notice because I find some issues with the Eagles side. I find some issues with the Ravens side as well. So I'm gonna leave it at that. The Eagles, bottom 5 in strength of schedule. The Ravens, top 5 in strength of schedule. The Eagles, they run the ball at the highest rate in the NFL, and they average the most rushing yards per carry. The Ravens, number 1 overall in yards allowed per carry, number 2 in overall run defense per PFF. And this market eerily resembles a market we seen last year in Baltimore. It was the Ravens-Lions, and we know the Lions got beat by 50 points in that game. Now, it's not easy to get to the Ravens after winning the Harbaugh Bowl on prime time, traveling across the country, back to Baltimore on a short week. But a lot of that travel, the Eagles are up against in the same spot. So I start to look at the under because I think there's some good matchups that lead me to the under. You cut the head off the Eagles' rushing attack where they're not as reliable, and you force Hurts to drop back and be an effective pocket passing quarterback. I don't know how effective they'll be on the road in this type of situation, given that they're traveling, given that they're coming off these massive wins and their strength of schedule has been so weak. And I'm not saying that this Ravens defense is a great defense, a great unit they're going up against. I'm just saying it's kind of a tough spot. And then you got the Eagles, who I also think match up well. They have a great secondary. They have Nakobe Dean, who's a great quarterback spy. He's got the speed. He's not as fast as Lamar Jackson, but he's one of the best spying linebackers in the NFL right now. And they have a respectable run D. And both teams are top 5 in run play percentage, so we should expect the clock to be moving to some extent. I can't get to a side in this game. I really can't, because you know how bullish I am on this Eagles team, and I can't trust the spot for either of these teams on a side. So I'm looking towards the under. Maybe it's a first half under, because we know both of these offenses, especially with how dominant physical they are the trickle, flood type of offenses where they're just chipping away, chiseling, and all of a sudden they wear out the defensive line, they wear out the front 7, and they all of a sudden these massive holes start opening up. So maybe it's a first half under. The database definitely aligns with the under. I would say the database actually, where it currently sits, is 50-50. Now there's ways we got to wait for this market to close because it's pretty confusing right now. I don't want to give any metrics on the side, but the under is definitely in play.
The first half under, it's funny you mention it because I thought that would be your move. I thought of the trickle flood that you've talked about. And, if we look at, there's so many, the Eagles game and the Ravens game, both at times looked like it was going to be, perfect under until eruptions in the second half. These are very strong defenses, and this is a very high total. I really like the first half under. 38 and 32 on the other 38% tickets, 32% of cash. Then we don't need to worry if one team is down because we know that they're more than capable of picking up. What are you waiting for in the market? What are you waiting to see from the total before you want to move on the first half under?
I really wanted to see a 51 in the game, but if I'm looking at first half, I guess that it's not really applicable at this point. So I am going to move. I'm glad you see it the same way, Jim.
I do.
And that gives me confidence. That to me, that gives me confidence to move on it.
I do. I think it's going to be. I think the clock is going to be running. I think they both want to establish run dominance in the game, and they both want to keep the opposition off the field. So I'm right with you on that first half under. Then do you feel like because right now I had to switch sites for my line history, but I have it up. It's sitting at 50.5 here, 50.5. That's where it opened. It's dropped from 50.5 down to 49.5. It kept doing that, 50.5 down to 49.5. Right now we're back at 50.5. Let me go to a different book here. A different book. This is not moved off of the 51, the main book that I use for line history. I've got a 1 cent move to the under at 51. And it's a pretty nice number. It's a pretty big number. You're going to get over 24.5 on the first half.
Yeah, I'm seeing a 25.5 minus 108. I know that the point is pretty, doesn't really matter at 20. You want the 24.5, but here's 25.5 minus 108.
Yeah.
Pretty damn good. I'm betting it right now.
Okay, I'm going to join you on the first half under here. Beautiful. Okay, we're locked and loaded in that one. And then I don't necessarily need to move on the side. I think the main thing we're going to do is when you talked about the strength of schedule, we're going to learn about the Eagles in this one.
Yep.
We already know the Ravens. The Ravens, after they lose, destroy opponents. When they're feeling better about themselves, it's not the same urgency. We'll see how it bangs out, but I like it. All right, let's roll on to Sunday night football. That's our next spot on the schedule. Sunday night and Monday night, we'll be here live at Pub Sports Radio for the Sunday Nighter, 8:20 p.m. Eastern. San Francisco 49ers 5-6, 2-3 on the road. At the Buffalo Bills 9-2, 5-0 at home. We're at Highmark Stadium, Orchard Park, New York. It's going to be snowing, 31 Fahrenheit, snow showers, 10-mile-per-hour winds. Let's get into the line history here for this one. It's going to this site's a little slower for me to move around on, but let's roll into it. So, and then move over to. Okay, here we go. On the spread, the Bills opened up -7 at -102. Within 3 hours, it moved to -110. It was juiced, and then it's come all the way back. So the 49ers opened up at +7, -115. They're back at +7 at -115. We have head over to BetMGM. They opened up Buffalo -6.5. It got up to 7, and they have a 6.5 listed, but that's at -125. So it's basically a 7 anyways. If we move over to Caesars, we have it opening up. Those are look aheads. So it opened up at 6.5 and then got up to 7. So that's where it is right now. When we get to the total over at Caesars, we have it opening up. Oh, again, that's a look ahead. Let's not go to the look aheads. We have it opening up at 44.5 and staying at 44.5. There's been 6 cents of movement towards the under. The big question mark in this game is, will Brock Purdy be at quarterback? And I will touch on that. And I say yes, he will be at quarterback. 67% of the tickets and 91% of cash on the Buffalo Bills, obviously hoping that's Brandon Allen. 79% of tickets and 95% of cash on the over. So let's roll into this. We'll start with the Niners. Passing offense, 4th in the league, 246.2 yards per game. Rushing offense, 7th at 138.4. Both have looked questionable over the last little while. Red zone offense has been a problem all year, 25th, 50%. CMC Music Factory is just not delivering right now, and he wasn't around in the beginning of the year. And we were like, well, that's why the red zone offense is struggling. And now he's come back, and he doesn't look very good. And you're like, well, that's why the red zone offense is struggling. Third down offense, 6th, 44.2% conversion rate. Pass defense, 6th, 193.5 yards per game they allow. Rush defense, 11th. They allow 110.8 yards per game. Their red zone defense has been an abomination. Their red zone offense being bad. Their red zone defense being horrible. They're 4th worst in the league, allowing 67.6% of the time touchdowns. Their third down defense, 26th. They allow conversions 43.7% of the time. 49ers coming off a disastrous 38-10 loss to Green Bay with Brandon Allen quarterback. He went 17-29 for 199 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, also fumbled twice, losing one of them. 10th career start, first start since 2021 regular season finale with the Bengals. But Shanny said that Purdy did light throwing Monday, didn't have any issues. Practice today. We're going to get the full injury report tomorrow. George Kittle returned from injury, led receivers with 6 catches for 82 yards, touchdown. CMC ran 11 times for 31 yards, caught 3 for 37, also lost a fumble. The offense was just 3 of 12 on 3rd and 4th down. Trent Williams missed the game with an ankle injury. He didn't practice all week. I never know with, Teron Armstead, with Trent Williams, some of these star linemen, whether when they miss the whole week, if they're going to play or not. They sometimes do. He didn't. I guess he thought it was going to be a rough day trying to protect Brandon Allen. He just thought, chalk up the L. I'll come back next week, healthy with Purdy. But the defense looked awful. This defense, Troy, had only 4 players on it that were part of that playoff win over Green Bay.
Wow.
Just Fred Warner, Diamador Lenoir, Tayshaun Gibson, and Robert Beal. That's it. That's how banged up this 49er team is. Packers held on to the ball for 36-43 and were perfect 5 for 5 in the red zone. Jacobs became the first player in the past 55 regular season games to rush for 100 yards against the 49ers. That's the longest the team had gone without allowing a 100-yard rusher since 1955. Bosa out of the lineup. Pass rush struggled. All they had were 2 Leonard Floyd sacks. Bosa didn't practice last week with the hip and oblique injuries. He didn't travel with the team to Green Bay. He's rehabbing his oblique. He hasn't practiced this week, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. Jordan Elliott, their defensive tackle, another one, was evaluated for concussion. Demetrius Flanagan Fowles hurt his knee. Renardo Green, cornerback, injured his neck. And Aaron Banks left with a concussion. He's in concussion protocol. So this is just a broken football team at this point. We need tomorrow's injury report and need to keep an eye on it. Let's talk about the Bills coming in up their bye week. Passing offense 13th, 226.1. Rushing offense 11th at 119.2. Red zone offense 6th. They score touchdowns 63.8% of the time, and their third down offense 9th. They convert 42% of the time. Their defense has been somewhat middling, which is hard to imagine when you watch them. But passing defense 14th. They allow 210 yards per game. Their rushing defense 13th. Allow 119.1. Red zone defense 10th. They allow touchdowns 51.3% of the time, and their third down defense 21st, allowing conversions 40.8% of the time. Coming up their bye, last season winning their 6th straight game, 30-21 at home over the Chiefs. It was an important win because they're still going for first in the AFC. They've also gone for 30 or more in 5 straight games. Josh Allen being spectacular, throwing for 2,543 yards, 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Now, he went the first 7 games of the year without an interception, so he's throwing the 5 interceptions in the past 4 games. He also run for 316 yards, 5 touchdowns. So this Bills team needed the bye badly. First and foremost, Matt Milano, that torn left bicep, he's back practicing. He's been out since August. So it's a huge thing to have Milano back. Now, will he be right beside Terrell Bernard in the 2 linebacker defensive set? Will they play him here? There is a possibility. Now, he wants to play, but there's a possibility, as they've just opened up the 21-day window, the possibility that he won't play. But remember, when they lost 27-24 to the Kansas City Chiefs, there was no Matt Milano and there was no Terrell Bernard. It was A.J. Klein, who they had to bring out of retirement, and Tyrell Dodson. Keon Coleman with the right wrist injury, Dalton Kincaid with the knee injury, and Spencer Brown, the right tackle, with an ankle injury, get more time to heal. Also, defensive end Dwayne Smoot, rookie defensive tackle Dwayne Carter are both returning, approaching a return. Keon Coleman is going to be back. He missed the 2 games with the right wrist injury. Amari Cooper played. Amari Cooper was in a cast on Sunday. So, Amari Cooper made a one-handed 30-yard touchdown to set up that game-opening touchdown. He's still hurt. I mean, this team is just fighting tooth and nail, and they wanted to beat the Chiefs so bad, even though 4 straight regular season beatings of the Chiefs is not a playoff game beating of the Chiefs. James Cook, 2.2 yards a carry, still got 2 touchdowns. He needs the break as well. This team needed the bye badly. Bills have a takeaway in all 11 games this year, and they lead the NFL with a plus 14 turnover differential. Take it away, Troy. The Bills at home against the 49ers in snow showers.
I brought my dismay and my inquisitive nature about this market. I just can't figure it out. So the Packers closed 6 last week against San Francisco. They smoke them. They blow them out. So maybe there's an adjustment. But how big of an adjustment are we talking about? Right now we're looking at, with Purdy in the game, supposedly, we're looking at a 7. If Purdy was out, what would this number be? I think what I'm seeing in the chat, and I think they're probably right, between 7.5 and 9.5, somewhere in that range. Jim, is that what you think?
I think it's bet up to 10.
I think it closes 10.
I mean, maybe I'm a little overly critical of what we saw, but yeah, Buffalo at home, I think it closes at 10.
So that would be through the 7 up to the 10, and that would mean that the Packers are 3.5, 4 points better with this lineup with Purdy than the 49ers are on a neutral field, roughly. The Packers were laying 3.5 on the road against the Bears on a neutral. Maybe it's a 3, maybe it's a 2.5, somewhere around those lines. So are the Bears better than the 49ers? With Purdy in the game, I just can't see that being the case. Something's telling me Purdy's out of this game. If that's the case, there's probably value on the Bills at this number. But obviously you don't feel the same way. And I feel like you're way closer. You know this team way more than I, and you pay more attention to that type of news than I do. So this is not a game I can't fully hand. I can't give a productive opinion on this game, to be honest. So I'm going to pass.
I think Purdy plays. Do you think that again, we need some injury news, but I think Bosa doesn't play. I think Purdy plays, but there's a lot of others that we need to know about here. If Purdy was in the lineup, do you think this is a nice deal for the Niners at 7?
I do. The Bills off a bye. They just had a massive statement game against KC. You got the 49ers in shambles. I mean, I feel like the 49ers would be the type of team to step up and at least make this competitive. And if the weather's going to be as bad as they're saying it is, you can kind of sell out. You don't have to worry about a lot of what the Bills could do stretching the field. I mean, you're going to get a lot of heavy dose of run game. 7 points just seems like a lot. I don't know. I can't give a productive opinion, I feel like, in this game at this point. But yeah, it's saying Purdy's in and Bosa's out. That's what I'm seeing too. That's what
I believe will be the case here. You have 79% of tickets, 95% cash on the over. I think that the over would hit easier, at least the first half over, if Brandon Allen is at quarterback. If Purdy's at quarterback, I think this is an under. I think that Purdy can extend drives, still have red zone issues. Depending on the health of the 49ers, the Bills will be able to get first downs and score touchdowns and have long drives, keeping Purdy off the field. I think this is an under with Purdy and an over, first half over without him. What do you think of that?
Jimmy, I'm hands up on this game. I really don't have a productive opinion because I don't think Purdy's going to be in the game. So I guess what you're saying makes sense, though, right? He's going to be able to extend drives, keep the ball, maintain possession. That makes 100% sense to me. And
he can catch first downs with his legs. They'll do whatever they can to keep Josh Allen off the field as much as possible. So I'm looking towards this under, but I will only do it with Purdy in. So I think tomorrow's injury report is crucial for us. And again, if you guys are members of PSR and you can be part of our Cappers contest when we vote for our Circa Millions card tomorrow, we'll hammer this again with more information here. Okay, there you go. That is Niners Bills, our Sunday nighter. Let's move on to Monday night action. Monday, December 2nd, 8:15 p.m. Our final game here on the board. Cleveland Browns 3-8, 1-4 on the road to the Denver Broncos, 7-5, 3-2 at home. Ram Power Field at Mile High, Denver, Colorado. It's 34 Fahrenheit cold, but it's clear and there's no wind at all in this one. Let's get over and take a look at the line history and then hand this over to our guy, Troy Torrence. On the spread, move over to the right book here. On the spread, this opened up with Denver -6. Within 10 minutes, this moved to a 5.5. And it's a 5.5 now. But since it moved to 5.5, it's gone slightly juiced towards the Browns. So we have a half-point move towards Denver. On the total, this opened up at 41.5. It's still at 41.5. The over at 41.5 was -108. It's now -117. So it's taken 9 cents of movement to the over. We have Omer says Broncos for me here. They might not cover, but he expects them to win. Let's get into the cash flow here for our Monday nighter. You have 41% of the tickets on Cleveland, just 14% of the cash. So the Broncos have 59 and 86. Then you have 83% of tickets and 92% cash on the over. Interesting. And wow, Coin saying Blake Snell just signed with the Dodgers. Rich get richer. Here we go. Passing offense for the Browns, 21st, 204.3 yards per game. Rushing offense, 29th, just 88.2 yards per game. Waiting for Nick Chubb to show out, even though we cashed his over 14.5 rush attempts very easily last week. Still not showing out. Red zone offense, 13th, 57.1% of the time they score touchdowns. Third down offense, the worst in the league. They only convert third downs 27% of the time. Their passing defense is 15th. They allow 214.4 yards per game. Their rushing defense 24th at 130.6. Their red zone defense is 22nd. 62.5% of the time they allow touchdowns, and their third down defense is 7th. They allow conversions 34.3% of the time. They're coming off extra rest and prep after defeating their AFC North rival, the Steelers, 24-19 in snowy conditions in Cleveland. Jameis went 18-27 for 219 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. He also lost a fumble. Jerry Jeudy caught 6 for 85. Nick Chubb ran 20 times for 59 yards and 2 touchdowns. The offense stepped up when it mattered. They were just 1 of 10 on third down, but they were 4 of 4 perfect on fourth down, 3 of 4 in the red zone. The defense held together. Myles Garrett stepped up, led the pass rush with 3 sacks. The Browns combined for 4 sacks and 9 quarterback hits. They held the Steelers to 8 of 19 on third and fourth down. They're getting healthier. Now, it'd be really nice to get Jedrick Wills back this week. He's been dealing with this knee issue throughout the year. I missed a loss to the Saints, and Jermaine Ifedi is starting at left tackle and will likely start again if Wills doesn't come back. Talk about the Broncos. So they have cashed for me 2 weeks in a row. Passing offense, 22nd, 201.9 yards per game. I did not deserve it this past week against the Raiders. Rushing offense, 22nd, 111.6 yards per game. Red zone offense, 12th, 57.5% of the time they're scoring touchdowns. Third down offense, 21st, converting 37.3% of the time. Their pass defense is 9th. They allow 199.8 yards per game, while their rush defense is 6th. They allow 96.2 yards per game on the ground. Their red zone defense is the best in the league. They only allow touchdowns 39.4% of the time, while their third down defense is 14th, allowing conversions 36.3% of the time. Broncos coming off their second straight win, 29-19 at Las Vegas. The Raiders outgained the Broncos 369 to 325. It was not a nice performance by the Broncos, but they did what they needed to do to secure the victory, something that they didn't do in years past. Bo Nix was 25 of 42 for 273 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He broke the franchise rookie record of 14 TD passes set by Marlon Briscoe in 1968. Cortland Sutton led receivers with 8 catches for 97 yards, 2 touchdowns, extended his streak of 70-yard games to 5. That is the longest streak by a Broncos player since the late Demaryius Thomas, 8 straight in 2014. Took a rabbit hole down. I hadn't thought about Demaryius in some time, and heart goes out to the Thomas family, and it was a hell of a receiver. Devon Villay caught 6 passes for 80 yards. The ground game struggled. Javonte Williams ran 8 times for -2 yards. Ugly. Jaleel McLaughlin led running backs with 7 carries for 44 yards. The offense was just 6 of 15 on third down and 2 of 4 in the red zone. The defense was strong, held the Raiders to just 1 of 5 in the red zone. They lead the league in that category. Pass rush was excellent, 5 sacks, 10 quarterback hits. And it's really important because they did it all without Zach Allen. Zach Allen with the heel injury, he didn't play, got the extension contract-wise, and the pass rush was still very strong. Riley Moss left the game late in the first half, and he suffered an MCL injury. So at this point, we don't expect cornerback Riley Moss to be in the lineup. Take it away for us here, Troy. Our Monday nighter, Browns, Broncos.
This is another game. I feel like I'm so polarized in how I'm picking these games. I have so much action this week, and there's spots where I just really struggle to get to a side, and there's spots where I really love it, and I'm hammering it. This is a spot where I don't feel like I have a very good read on. This Browns team all season, I feel like I have a good read on, especially comparing it, benchmarking against what I did with them last year. And the Broncos, they're probably starting to be overpriced in the market. We've seen it last week. They're lucky to cover against Las Vegas. Peyton, I love what he did. Our guy, Gary Payton, what he did with expediting Bo's development. We continue to see him progress week after week. His advanced metrics, his PFF grades, everything over the past 6 weeks is vastly different, vastly improved from weeks 1 through 6. And the Browns, they're Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, they compete at home, especially in divisional matchups. That's what Jameis Winston was able to do in the Browns team. They've won 2 games with Jameis at quarterback at home, and they've gotten embarrassed. Their only game on the road, they did have their bye week kind of splitting it up. It's just a really tough team, Jekyll and Hyde, like I said, to get a hold of. But this Browns team on the road this season, they have 1 win. It was the second game of the season against Jacksonville. They won in Jacksonville. Now, since then, they've lost 4 consecutive games, and 2 of them, they were favorites, and they still lost. And Winston's likely going to have a lot of trouble against this defense, who I kind of paint a similar profile as the Los Angeles Chargers. And then you know that I want to fade home dogs at 3.5. So there's only one way I'm looking. I'm looking towards the Broncos in this spot. I'm likely going to find some action in this game. I'm going to just wait to see where this market shapes up, because it's hanging around a key number right now. So I'm in no rush to move on this game, and you know I like to let this market develop, and then I'll hammer it come Sunday.
Do we expect the Browns defense to hold up? Because their pass defense is being okay. They struggle to move the ball. They struggle to get first downs. The Broncos did not look good last week, but they have the best red zone defense in the league. And do you have interest in the under, even though there's no wind at all and it's clear, but it's cold? Did you have interest in the under at all?
I have no interest in the under at this number. I mean, the history of this market and this type of price range is not favorable to the under. So I'm not looking towards the under, especially at the 42 right now. I'm just simply looking towards the Broncos.
Yeah, I get that. The extra rest and prep is not that big of a deal, because you think that you are, selling them high at this point. But I mean, the problem is you're also buying the Broncos high, but at least you're also selling the Browns high. Do you see that, selling the Browns high?
Selling the Browns high, I do. And I feel like I fall into that trap. I fall into it this year. I've seen the Browns come off a big win, and I jumped in, wanted to back them, and then I came right back down to earth. I can't trust this defense in its current state.
All right. Well, we will wait.
Yeah, we're going to have to see. We have to let this one develop. I do not have a very confident feeling.
What are you looking for? You're looking for this to move to 6.5?
I guess I'd be looking towards the over. I guess that's the only way I could look at this point, because that's where we're sitting. I don't know, Jim. This is a really tough game, and I didn't spend enough time with it. I got caught in the weeds in too many other games that I was extremely bullish on, when I knew that this open just put me in a bad situation right off the bat. But I know that I have a lot of time to figure it out, because I'm betting every primetime game I have all season. I'm going to be betting this one as well.
Well, we will be live here for Monday Night Football. I need to spend more time here with this market, but it's funny. It's funny. The Broncos are now starting to play in some higher scoring games. The Browns offense is starting to succeed as well. I wonder if that over is a really good look. The 83% of tickets, 92% of cash on that over, and it's moved 9 cents, which tells me this 41.5 not going to be here for long. Let me just see if it's already gone here. It's it's already gone. It's not gone everywhere, but it's 42 at what I'm looking at right now. And it's 42. It's 42 now. Even the 42 is juiced at Sharp Books to the over. Why wouldn't there be points scored in this one? No wind.
I think the big piece of it is when I look at the red zone defense of the Broncos, and I don't trust Jameis Winston in the red zone at all. That's where you lose on your overs, is when they get into the red zone and they can't convert, or they throw an interception, there's a pick, they just wipe points right off the board. I could see famous Jameis throwing an interception, having trouble in the red zone. We've seen it 2 weeks against the Saints on the road. We've seen it against the Chargers at the house. It's a tough game. Tough spot.
But you feel like you can trust the Broncos offensively here. You're just questioning whether you can trust the Browns offensively. That the team total is pretty expensive here. The book I'm looking at 365. The over 23.5 team total is juiced to -120.
Yeah, that doesn't sound interesting to me. Because I want to fade the Browns I want to fade both these teams off a win. So it makes you want to take the under. Unfortunately, I feel like this is just not a great spot to take the under. So it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one to figure out.
That is our Monday Nighter. We will be talking about it tomorrow in our Cappers Contest show. So please join us. That's a new time, 5 p.m. And then on Thursday, I will be live streaming all 3 games as I do every Thanksgiving Thursday. Your Canadian brother has your back. Well, I'm half American, but living in Canada, but I have your back. Please join me anytime you get a break from the family. That was extremely enjoyable, Troy. Excellent work. Troy and I combined to go 21-12 plus 8.63 units last week. We need to keep cashing. Let's review action here from Troy and I. Troy gets his card started with a Lions Cowboys money line parlay. He's also interested in the Cowboys -3.5, and he's piqued my interest there. We both get started, though, on the under 47.5 in Miami, Green Bay. Troy got -115. I bet at -116. But I am also on the Dolphins +3.5. That's going to take a lot of negativity. Sal said he wouldn't bet Miami with my money. We're going to hear that nonstop. We're going to hear that from everybody. Everyone's going to talk about Tungo Bailoa can't play in the snow and all that stuff. And perfect. Lines moving towards the Dolphins, and I saw it in his eyes, man. I know it's a silly thing to say, but he's out to prove people wrong, and I like that. Excited to kill narratives. Let's go, bring it on. I mean, I just that's gonna pump everybody up, man. I can't wait for that game. That'll be our final live game of Thursday. Then Troy's on the Raiders +12.5, and he moved on the over 42.5 during the show. I'm going to move on that over 42.5 here as soon as the show's over. The question is, do I also move on the Raiders? I'll have to figure that out on my own. Chargers, Falcons, we stayed off. Steelers, Bengals, we stayed off at this point. Arizona is interesting. The under as well, interesting, but we haven't moved officially. Troy has moved on the Patriots +3 at -111. The under in the Seahawks-Jets game I'll be taking a close look at, and the Seahawks, but I'm not going to bet either of those tonight. I really want to sit with those spots here. Then Titans-Commanders. I thought I was going to end up on the Titans, but the idea of buying the Titans high and selling the Commanders low, and with Jaden Daniels showing that maybe the rib injury is starting to get better, I'm going to stay off of that. Troy's on the Jaguars +5, the Jaguars team total over 19.5, and the Jaguars money line. We're going to take a lot of flack on YouTube on that one. I'm joining him on the Jaguars. I'm joining him on the Jaguars here. So I'll bet that after the show. Rams, Saints, we stayed off. Then we are just bullish on this Panthers game. We're all both on Panthers +6. We're both on the Panthers team total over 19.5. And I'm also on Carolina, Tampa Bay over 46.5. That's already been bet. First half under, Philly, Baltimore. I'm going to bet that. I'm going to bet that here this evening. I don't think this goes up to 52 and 52.5. And even if it does, I don't think it stays up. It's one of those things that I think will drop. Maybe it drops down pretty low and then bounces back up when the public hammers it late. And then I have interest in the under 44.5 in Niners Bills if Purdy plays. And at this point, we have no moves on the Browns Broncos, but the Broncos in the over sound appealing. I love it. Love it. Sal, I love you. I love all the comments from the chat. It's very important that everybody knows that we don't have to agree with each other. We're not a bunch of yes men. We're a bunch of gamblers trying to figure out the best angles to get us paid. And I enjoy it very, very much. And I enjoy this opportunity to cap this NFL program. I enjoy working with Troy Torrence immensely. And you guys in the chat are the only reason why we're able to have this show. So thank you. Jim W. Putt, Wager Detective, Sal, Coin, 2-3, Jared TG, Jim Dewigger, Tacky JP, Dougie Wise, Blue Numbers, Slatsy, Moneyball. Thank you guys. Truly, truly. Omer Gaudet, 5:20 a.m. in France, now 5:27, so he's got to go crash. So he stays with us from 2 till 5:20 a.m. to cap the card. It's just that you inspire other cappers. Dougie Wise, my man, Rants, Thank you all. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you to our producer, Jose Snips Bouquet, who works tirelessly behind the scenes to make these shows look good. He cuts up all the videos while still capping as he's hosting tomorrow's show. I will be hosting the 5 p.m. Cappers Contest show with him as well. Troy, I just love this so much. It gives meaning to my life. And capping with you is something that's going to not only fatten my bankroll, but I think it's going to provide a lot of wonderful opportunities as we move forward in our careers. Thank you for taking all the time and the energy and all the hard work and delivering time and time again for us here at Pub Sports Radio and Bankroll Blitz. Can you please finish with some words and lead us into the future, my friend?
As I always say, and I truly believe it, bottom of my heart, this is real talk. There's a reason I showed up in San Antonio for Pub 4. There's a reason I come up here every week, every Tuesday. I love the NFL. I love capping it. But there's only one capper in the industry I want to be on show with, and that's Jimmy the Bag. There's only one cappers I want to work with. It's all the dogs you mentioned in the chat just before you turned it over to me. I truly believe that this is the best damn community in the industry, Pub Sports Radio. It's NFL Week 13, and we will cash.
Let's go.